Hello and welcome to Films for the Very First Time. My name is Jordan, and with me, as always, is Casey McGeorge.
Oh, how's it going, everybody?
It's going well. I think this is our second episode of 2024, first one that we're recording in 2024, and we're actually recording this on the first day of the year.
It is
Uh,
New Year's Day. Happy New Year's, everybody.
yeah, Happy New Year's if you're listening or watching along with us. I'm also going to put this up on the Marvel podcast that we do as well, which is To the Infinity Saga and Beyond. I'm not sure when I'll release that, if I'll release it in the same week or something, but I'll do that. So if you are listening to us on there and this is your first time listening to this show, let me just explain. We usually explain it every week anyway. But anyway, I pick a movie each week, or Casey picks a movie. We alternate that the other
Or
one
TV
has not
shows.
seen. Yeah, or TV shows. We have done one TV show so far. Um, and what we do on there is we pick one that we usually enjoy. I don't think we've picked anything that we actively distaste to subject the other person to yet. But we usually pick a film favorite or TV show favorite of ours, and then the other person watches it. Then we meet back up and we have a conversation that usually lasts longer than the movie at this rate, except for the
Yeah,
Lord of
yeah,
the Rings ones.
yeah. Well, I mean, when you're making 4-hour movies, that kind of.
Right. And if it is your first time listening to us, either on the Marvel podcast or on our feed here, our backlog of movies, we have done quite a bit. I think this is probably like episode 15 or 16 at this point. So we're really trucking along here. But we've talked like cult classics, we've talked comedies,
Did a horror movie in there?
horror movies for Thanksgiving, for Halloween. We did Christmas for Christmas, right? And then we've of course had some
We did
just
series?
series, yeah, Terminators, Lord of the Rings. If you heard us mention those, so check that out. But today we're dipping into a movie that is one of my favorites that Casey has yet to see. He does own it, and I do want to apologize to everybody that we're doing this movie because you can't stream it anywhere. Amazingly,
That makes no
um,
sense whatsoever.
it is a Academy Award winning film that you cannot stream anywhere right now. It is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which of course premiered in 2018 on December 14th. Directed by Bob Persichetti, Peter Ramsey, and Rodney Rothman, with a screenplay by Phil Lord and Rodney Rothman, with story by Phil Lord. And it stars Shamik Moore, Jake Johnson, Haley Steinfeld, Mahershala Ali, Brian Tyree Henry, Lily Tomlin, Luna Lauren Velez, John Mulaney, Kamiko Glenn, Nicolas Cage, and Liev Schreiber. Quite a pretty stacked cast here. I don't have like a synopsis, but what I would say is like New York City teenager Miles Morales gets bit by a radioactive spider, and after Spider-Man Peter Parker passes away, he has to fill the void and correct the issues that Kingpin has caused with opening a wormhole into the Spider-Verse. I just did that off the top of my head. Hopefully that sounded great. So the way we usually also break this down is I will go ahead and say where I was when this released, what made me fall in love with this movie, and then Casey will share where he was and what maybe kept him away from it. And then we'll dive into plot, and then at the end we rate the movie. Each of us will rate it, and then we also share what the Rotten Tomatoes, Metacritic, all that stuff was for the film. Okay, and then Casey will reveal the next movie or TV show he is having us watch. So this movie came out December 14th of 2018, and this was actually a pretty big year for Miles Morales, I would say, because the Spider-Man video game also released in 2018, which while he wasn't a playable he was a playable character, but not as a Spider-Man. Um it was kind of like a big deal. We had usually the way that Miles works when we talk about comics, he's usually introduced after Peter Parker has passed away in the Ultimate Universe, is kind of how he was introduced. And Spider-Man the video game was really the first instance I can remember of Miles just existing in the universe with Peter, and Peter being alive and actually still relatively young at the time and not dead. And at that point, we're seeing a lot of Miles before he even gets his powers, which I thought was really cool in the video game. And then that came out in like September, October. Then, yeah, so like 2 months later, 3 months later, he's a star in a movie that wins the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. So, kind of a really big year for Miles Morales in the cultural zeitgeist, I would say. And then, of course, 2020, his game comes out and stuff like that. So in 2018, of course, I am a big Spider-Man fan, but I hadn't really dipped my toe too much into Miles or the Ultimate Universe at that time. Amazingly, no pun intended there with amazing. But what we so when I played the game, I was like I knew who Miles was, I knew who his dad was, all that kind of stuff. So I kind of knew where they were going with it, but I haven't really read much of it. But I really like his characterization in the game, and then the movie comes out, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should go see that. I'm a big Spider-Man fan, but I don't know. 2018 didn't really have like a big release. December was a big year for like Star Wars. Those first 3 years before that, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018 didn't have one in December. So really, there was like no big no big family film I was going to or anything that time of year. And I was hearing all the praise, and I said, I gotta go see this movie. So we go to the movie, me and my wife. We show up late. So we actually show up at the part where Jefferson is driving Miles to school. So I'd already missed, I don't know, 5-6 minutes of the film. And so we watched the movie. I enjoyed it. Spoiler alert. And then we went back the next day to catch the beginning. And then, watched it all again. And then probably like a week or two later, my dad mentioned something about wanting to see it. And I was like, I'll go see it a third time. So I saw this movie 3 times. That's where I was during this time. It was a big year of Spider-Man for me. I was enjoying the game. I loved the film. So it was a good introduction to Miles for most people in the theater as well, I think. But yeah, so that's where I was. Casey, where were you in 2018, and what how did this movie squeak past you? Because I will say it did squeak past a lot of people beforehand. If you look at the box office from this one to the second one, huge increase. It got really popular on Netflix, and again, for some reason, it is nowhere on streaming.
So 2018, that July, I just started working for the post office after I had left working at Walmart.
Wow, really? I felt like you were at Walmart so long when we were podcasting Superstore, and now I'm like, it was probably only a year.
Maybe yeah, it probably was maybe a year or two at the most. But I had resigned at Walmart, started in July of 2018 at the post office, and 2018 was a rough year at the post office. One, because I'm brand new, I have no clue what in the blue hell I'm doing. Two, it was an election year, so
True.
With midterm elections and everything, the amount of election mail we had was ludicrous. And then 3, at the time, everybody's used to it now, but at the time, Amazon was not delivering some of their own items to people.
That's right.
Everything was still relied on either through the Postal Service, UPS, FedEx, or one of these other like DHL or, whatever, On Track or something like that. So we at the Postal Service carried a bulk of that. So the way, as a small side, usually when you're delivering at the post office I'd say from Columbus Day on to the end of the year is a rough time, especially like 2024. This is going to be a horrible year because you have everything that leads up to your election, and it's a presidential election, and especially now they're doing a lot of stuff where you can do ballots by mail, which I'm not against. I'm all for it, but it gives us a lot longer days, and then you get. I'm sure everyone has gone out to their mailbox at some point and gotten 3, 4, 5, 6 political ads about pass this proposition, vote no on this proposition. This person's going for city councilman. This person's going for alderman. This person's going for state senator. This person's going for state legislature. All this other stuff. We have to deal with all that. So yes, you guys hate it when you get all that stuff in your mailbox. We hate it as well because usually it's long days, and the way it works is like Monday we'll get like a bunch of stuff that'll be like for this proposition and against this proposition and a bunch of other stuff. And then Tuesday we get the exact opposite of what we just had on Monday. And then Wednesday we get like a third batch of different versions. And then like Thursday or Friday it kind of starts all over. And then especially now with mailing stuff, with mailing your ballots in, voting by mail, a lot of times people have already voted and sent their ballot in. So it's already gone. Poof. It's at the election commission so they can count it. And they're still getting the stuff in the mailbox. And yes, we know you don't want it. We know you hate it, but we got to do it. So anyway, from like Columbus Day up until Thanksgiving, and then once Thanksgiving hits, once Election Day hits, there's maybe a week where stuff calms down. Thanksgiving hits, picks back up, because that's when everybody starts ordering stuff for Christmas. Said all that to say, 2018 was a really rough year, especially when you're first starting. You don't even know what you're doing, never mind where you're going on your route and all this other stuff. So December of 2018, it was still like a couple weeks before Christmas. I had absolutely no time whatsoever to go see a movie. Like I was working, just like I was this year, I was working like 12-hour days, 6 days a week. Getting one day off a week, and then I'd start at like 6:30 in the morning, deliver packages for a couple hours, come back, do a normal day, and then do whatever at the end. So I'd start at 6:30 in the morning. There were days I didn't get home till 9, 10 o'clock at night. And it's just delivering mail. So I'm sure it was still in the theaters after, after everything calmed down in January. But it was animated. I thought it was more of a kids movie. So any kids movie that I want to go see, I've just learned to accept the fact I'll either have to buy it on disc or wait for it to come out on streaming, because I don't want to seem like a creepy dude sitting in the back of a theater in a kids movie.
I think we mentioned this before,
Yeah,
offline sometime when we were talking about another movie like that. Yeah,
it's just a personal thing, right?
Yeah,
it's not. It's just, and I wouldn't blame any parent if they're bringing their kids in there to see a movie and then they see some weird dude sitting by himself in the theater watching a movie in a kids movie. It might make them uncomfortable. They probably call the cops, and then Chris Hansen comes out around the corner and tells you to take a seat. And people got to be protective of the kids. I'm not against that. So I've just accepted the fact that if there's a animated movie or a kids movie, like if a Shrek came out, like Shrek 5 or something, that's a little different because that's both an adult-oriented type movie and for kids. So there's a couple that are a little different. But if it's a strictly kids movie that I might want to see just because it looks like a good story and I might be attached to the characters or something, yeah, I'm just going to wait for it to come out on this. I had no clue about Miles Morales, in all fairness, until I played the Spider-Man game. And even then, when I played the game, it took me a while to get up to the point with Miles Morales. I might not have even made it up to the Miles Morales point until the PS5 version came out.
Oh, okay, the remaster.
Yeah, because when I managed to get my PS5, I bought it through Sam's Club, and I had to get a bundle, so it came with the PS5 and an extra controller, and it came with Spider-Man Miles Morales for the PS5. Okay, cool. But it came with the better version of that, which came with a download code for the remastered version of the original Spider-Man for PS5. So I think I've still only played like maybe the first hour of Miles Morales, and I think it wasn't until that that I even got to the Miles Morales point in the original Spider-Man game. I did not know was he Puerto Rican, I think?
Yeah, he's a mix of Puerto Rican and African American.
Yeah. I had no clue there was a Puerto Rican and black Spider-Man out there. Like that kind of blew my mind.
I knew it because I got so when it made news. It made the news when he was first developed in comics because the way like some of those, like I don't know what to describe them. People that are racist, I guess, but also like the reaction they were phrasing it as if like on these clickbait sites that this was replacing Peter Parker. And it's true. He replaced Peter Parker in the Ultimate Universe. But they were trying to leave that part out of it when they're talking about the clickbait. They're making it sound like
Yeah.
they're replacing our white Peter Parker, And yeah, so I remember that making a lot of news then. But I just actually read Ultimate Spider-Man for the first time in 2020, and it is up there. I've said it before on there. It's probably my favorite interpretation of the comics of the character. Is Ultimate Universe, but I haven't still read a lot of the Miles stuff in that because I had to read like 116, 120 some issues just to get through all of Peter's stuff, and I have not had the time to really dive into to post that yet. But yeah, so I remember that making like huge news. Now you did buy the movie. Do you know when you did and like what drew you to purchasing it?
Uh, it might have been a sale, honestly. So the movie comes out, right? I see it's getting a lot of great reactions and people saying it's a great movie and the animation is fantastic. And we'll get to it at some point. Everyone loves Spider-Ham, right? And I'm like, okay, I haven't seen this movie. John Mulaney is fantastic as Spider-Ham. And I'm like, okay, I love John Mulaney. Like, don't get me wrong. He is fantastic as a comedian. Having not seen it or having no knowledge of it, I'm like, okay, see, they're just trying to recreate Spider-Pig from the Simpsons movie, but it's like 10 years too late. So once again, like I had no clue. I knew nothing of it, right? And I'm just like, okay, they're trying to recreate Spider-Pig from the Simpsons, and I'm like, this really can't be that good. So maybe it was the Amazon Day sale or something. I don't know. It was a sale, and I got the 4K Blu-ray.
Oh, nice.
So, I got it fairly inexpensive. So I was like, okay, like I've heard a lot of great things about it. I might as well get the movie. I'm sure at some point I'll watch it. And it's probably been like 3 or 4 years, and I hadn't watched it until yesterday when I went to put it in. I don't know why. I'm just busy, and I have no life, and I just get into my little groove of things, and I just never got around to it.
I do want to point out too, just for anybody that doesn't know, and I don't know if you know this, if you looked it up afterwards, but Spider-Ham is actually created in 1983. So I do think a lot of people thought the same thing you did with the Spider-Pig Simpsons thing, but it actually has precedent in the comics beforehand.
Yeah, I think I might have mentioned it to you before. Like I said, we might have some new listeners on here. Anybody who doesn't know, as I'm watching these movies, so I pick a movie one week, you pick a movie. I gotta gather notes and stuff when I'm picking my movie. Right, when I'm watching my movie, I'm copying and pasting notes and doing a bunch of stuff. I got to do better on that, as you saw from my last couple episodes. When you pick the movie, I kind of just watch it. I'll pause it at times and I'll go through and I'll look up random stuff like who is this character, or who does the voices for this, or who is this actor or actress, or and I'll get on there and I'll look up trivia stuff. And then once you start doing that and Google realizes you're on that roll of like looking up stuff connected to this movie or this universe, like as soon as you start typing stuff in, it comes up pretty it comes up pretty quick, right? So yeah, I thought Spider-Pig was first, and then I saw no, Spider-Ham has been around since the early '80s, and I'm like, what in the blue hell? Like they made a pig Spider-Man? Okay, sure, why not? So yeah, and then I started looking at voices, and I was like, oh, Nick Cage does a voice. Okay, I did not. I was like, I did not expect. Then I started reading about him doing the voice, and I was like, oh, okay. And same thing with Spider-Ham. Apparently, there's a bunch of stuff left on the cutting room floor because John Mulaney It's probably one of your notes. I might be getting into it. But when he did the voice, they just let him go wild. And he did a lot of stuff that had some profanity and things in there. And then afterwards, he asked them what the rating was, and they're like, it's a PG movie. So I'm sure I would love to see some of the cut stuff of Spider-Ham. Yeah, I don't doubt this. I mean, Spider-Pig was a big deal, right?
Right.
When the Simpsons movie came out, people fell in love with Spider-Pig. Maybe it was just the song of Homer singing that song, but I love that part of the movie. And he caused, Spider-Pig was the cause of Springfield to go get put in a bubble.
True.
It was actually Homer, but yeah, Spider-Pig. So, yeah, I never got around to it, and I decided at some point I was like, I'll buy it, and I kind of wish I'd watched earlier.
All right, so we'll dive in then. So yeah, we have Miles Morales as we open up. Actually, we open up with Peter Parker, right? Where they say,
Yeah,
like, let's
you know
do this
me.
one.
Let's do this one more time. I'm Peter Parker for the last, and okay. I like they do this several times throughout the movie, right? I'm Peter Parker. I was for the last
however many years, yep.
Or weeks or days,
yes,
I think.
Yeah, depending on who they are.
It comes to days from Miles, or weeks. But for the last so many years, I've been Spider-Man. I was bitten by a radioactive spider, or a radioactive pig in Spider-Ham's case.
Yes,
right?
Because he was an actual spider in the Peter Parker one that gets bit by a radioactive ham instead.
Yeah, he gets bit by a radioactive, and I love because when there's the three of them there telling that story,
overlapping.
It's Noir Spider Noir, Spider Ham, and Spider-Gwen. Is it?
Yeah. She says she's Spider Woman, but
no.
Now people call her Spider Gwen.
It's the anime.
Penny Parker.
It's Penny Parker. Yeah. It's Penny Parker. When all three of them are there and they're telling their story at the same time. And everything matches up except for Spider-Ham saying I was bit by a radioactive. And it's like you hear two versions of Spider and then you hear Pig.
Yes.
And it's like, wait, what? Like I had to rewind that a couple times. I was like, what? But yeah, I like the different variations of that. Oh, you know me. I'm Spider-Man a bit. And, And with the first one, I really like the fact that it played off of the Spider-Man movies that we already had and knew.
Yes, like how it shows the car going into the cafe and he like saves Mary Jane from that. That happens in Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, it basically takes the first three, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, and that's okay. Like if you've seen those, then you realize, okay, this is the Spider-Man from the Sam Raimi movies. And
it's or at least similar enough, right? Because like they show the dance thing, right, that happens in the third one.
They even made fun of that. That was great. Where it's like, this even happened. We don't talk about this.
Yes.
And he's going down the street, giving his finger guns,
and I think that was smart of them to look. At that point, 2018, when they're making it, even I don't even think Homecoming was out. Like 2017 is when Homecoming came out. So how long animation takes at that point, like the most famous Spider-Man movies were the Raimi ones because the Garfield ones didn't do great. Like the first one did, the second one didn't. And they probably knew if people are here watching these movies, they would have seen those and kind of lean into that a bit. So I thought that was pretty smart of them.
So I'll say I watched this. I put my disc in my Xbox, right? I watched this on this. Like you said, there's no way to stream this. Which between Sony and Marvel, come on, figure this out, guys.
Right.
There's no reason for that. So I let it. I don't know if I could have fast forwarded, but I let it play through the previews in the beginning, and one of them was for Far From Home.
Yes, yeah. So, by the time here's how Sony and Marvel has done this so fast, right? Like, Homecoming was 2017 released. This movie was 2018, and then Far From Home was 2019. So, like, summer of 2019. So at that point, they would have had a commercial for it. But my point was just like animation usually takes a while to make. So if it released in 2018, you're thinking at least 3 to 4 years of making this. So that you're looking at maybe they start. I can maybe actually see when they started producing this. I have Wikipedia right here. Maybe I should check that out.
If I had to guess, if this came out in 2018, I'd say 2014 or 15.
So 2015, they were talking about making this movie in January of 2015 based off 2014 Spider-Verse comics. So uh at that point I'm not sure when they started actually. Oh, okay. April of 2015, it had a date of 2018 release date. And April 2015 I think was just after they announced Tom Holland was going to be Spider-Man in Civil War. So at that point, when they started working on this thing, they really only had the Garfield and the Raimi
Yeah, the
films.
Amazing
Yeah.
Spider-Man and then the Raimi Spider-Man movies to base everything off of.
So they of course made great references that which killed in the theater every time I saw it. By the way, this dance move
Yeah,
absolutely slayed everybody in the theater all the
which
time.
look, rightfully so. You can say that third Raimi Spider-Man movie had too many villains and things, and it got too goofy, and Peter, Peter Parker's dancing and things, and it was unnecessary.
I unironically love Peter being like a dick in Spider-Man 3 and the dance. I actually really like it. I know a lot of people like it now because of a meme, but like I actually always liked that scene. I always thought it was funny.
I mean, not only that, but you got to think. So he's supposed to be what, like 21, 22 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
When that comes
Typically,
up,
yeah.
he graduated high. We saw he graduate high school. He's at whatever college, or maybe he failed and flunked out of college, and he's working. He's working
At
for the
most,
Daily.
he's supposed to be under 30, even though Toby was like 30.
I'd say he's probably 25 at the
Right.
latest, right? Think about, for anybody who's older, think about yourself when you're between like 18 and 25, and you might have went through a few different phases in your life, and you might have had a villain phase where for a couple months you might have, like you said, you might have been a dick, or you might have just did some weird things, and people are like, dude, what are you doing? So I can't blame, especially now. Imagine you're you, and you're actually Spider-Man, and you've got superpowers because you got bit by a radioactive spider, and you can do these weird things. Yeah,
And
I
you're
can't blame
under influence of a symbiote from space. I mean, there's a lot of things there.
you. Yeah, but that as they kept doing that for each different spider person that you interact with or you see, I like the fact that they would kind of throw it, and there would be some of the same things, but then there's subtle differences, like um, instead of losing, like Spider-Gwen lost her best friend instead of
An uncle, right?
yeah, so on and so forth. And I think in this world it was, so the billboards and stuff in Times Square were completely different, because I think when you get the thicker Spider-Man, I don't know what to call him, right?
He's called Peter B. Parker.
Yeah, when we get Peter B. Parker, right? I guess maybe instead of Peter A. Parker, I don't know. But Peter B. Parker, that's where you get the Times Square with the Coca-Cola sign and the actual, like, legitimate businesses and stuff that we know. But in this world, it's actually an alternate universe from ours. That's where we're getting something that's similar to Coke, but it's not. And we're getting movie posters that are a little bit off from what we have, in businesses that are a little bit different. And as you're watching this, some stuff might seem a little bit off, and especially if you're like me, where you're looking at stuff in the background and you're pausing it or rewinding it, you're seeing stuff and it's making you giggle every now and then.
Yeah, like they have movie posters like From Dusk Till Dawn, which is a Shaun of the Dead From Dusk Till Dawn.
And apparently that was an idea they actually threw out for a movie, but it never happened.
No Snapchat, it's Pickaboo. Planet. Oh no, this says Planet Hollywood. Yeah, so they have a Planet Hollywood sign. So
Well, no,
that's
there
something.
was one that I saw one that wasn't Planet Hollywood. It was something similar.
Oh, maybe it's close, but it looks like Hollywood. But maybe it's just that it's too blurry on this screenshot. And then they have what? Seth Rogen as some sort of horse jockey in one of these movies. Um, which I think is interesting.
Maybe they were taking that off of when what's his name played was in Seabiscuit and hurt his back.
Oh, maybe. We have baby showers instead of bridesmaids. They're
Yeah,
all wearing blue. Um, Noise Boys instead of, I don't know, I guess instead of Jersey Boys. It looks like it's supposed to be like a play on the Jersey Boy poster.
probably.
Then they do have Hi Hello with Nick Kroll and John Mulaney, as that's characters of theirs from like what SNL or some sketch thing that they've done before. But yeah, so they have a bunch of. I just googled Times Square Spider-Verse and trying to pick out some of these because I've seen this movie so many times. I kind of sit here sometimes and like, oh, what can I? Let me pay attention to what's going on in this Times Square because it is so prominently featured in this movie. It's called Hold Your Horses, the Seth Rogen movie. Riding high in the. I can't read what that last part of the tagline is. Riding high in the saddle. Oh, that's what it says. But yeah, so I kind of liked seeing that because it really, I think, nails the point of different universes and how some
Yeah,
things are the same, some things are not. Like some of the music is stuff that we have in our universe, and then some of these posters and stuff are totally not things. And that was another big thing that was a hit from this movie was the soundtrack because like Sunflower by Post Malone and whoever else sings that was a huge hit right after this movie came out, and it made its premiere on the soundtrack of this film. So even though it didn't make a lot box office wise, which we'll talk about, it was a modest hit, and it kind of got discovered later on streaming, which again is why it's so bizarre that it is not anywhere, especially with the sequel on streaming right now. It's like, wouldn't you want people to be able to watch both of them? But I digress. Yeah, so this movie kind of kicks off with Peter Parker doing the intro, which we're going to see multiple times, and then at a certain point here, Miles is going to he's going to Brooklyn Visions Academy, which is a school that he doesn't want to really be at. He wants to be more at like his public school where he is has friends, and he kind of you see him talking to them as he's walking to school some days. As he doesn't really feel like he fits in, I guess. And one thing I like too is when he tries to purposely fail the true and false quiz, and his teacher's like, the only way that you can have gotten these all wrong is if you had
knew every yeah. He's
if
like,
you knew them.
do you know the odds if you just randomly guessed what your score would be? Yeah, 50. I get a 50%. Yeah. So the only way you can get a 0 is if you actually knew all the answers.
And I don't know if that's actually true. Like, I do think Miles, of course, knew all these, but like, I'm sure there are some people, like statistically, yes, 50%. But there's got to be somebody that gets a 0 and just has the baddest luck because each question is 50%. So there's a chance you get them all wrong.
It's either I don't know if it was true or false or like multiple choice A through D.
I think
but
she
even
said true
so,
or false, yeah.
But even what I'm saying is even like somebody could out there get every single one wrong, but if you just randomly
right.
Took 100 question test and did something like that, I think statistically, yeah, most people would get more than a 0.
Yes, yeah. And I just like how she turns the 0 into 100 out of 0 on his test, and she's like, I'm not going to let you do this. but we also get some really good setup in this too, which is um, something I didn't think about either. He's walking into the class, and they say he's late, and he says, well, time is relative, so actually, you guys were all early. I'm
Yeah,
on
maybe
time.
you guys were.
But they're watching a video, and the video is Olivia Octavius, who is going to be Doc Ock later on, played by Catherine Hahn. And just funny that like that little bit there, we don't get to see her name and we don't get to learn anything about her there, but it's pretty big setup for something that comes later in the movie.
Yeah. Um, I'll save my thoughts on Olivia Octavius until later, till we get to her, because I don't want to spoil anything with that. Um, I've seen Catherine Hahn's been acting for a while. She's been in a ton of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, a lot of times she's funny, she's talented, she's great, but she would get overlooked. Like she was kind of overlooked a little bit in Step Brothers, and she was in Anchorman. She played one of the great side. She played a great side character in Anchorman, right? But she was always on the side, and it wasn't until she played Agatha in WandaVision where I was like, "Wow, this lady is truly amazing." And now when I see her and stuff, she is unbelievable. The part she played in Glass Onion, fantastic. Like I'm becoming a big fan of Catherine Hahn.
Yeah.
After seeing her in the MCU and WandaVision, because she's a really underrated actress. And I'm glad to see that she's getting more love and appreciation now than she had previously.
Yeah, I always find it funny when like I don't know how much they think about it, like the actors and stuff, but like it's just jobs to them a lot of times. But being like, okay, I was in this Marvel movie that is like really big hit, and I played like a variant of Dr. Otto Octavius and being Olivia Octavius. But then I'm also Agatha over here in this. Like, I wonder if they like ever link those things together in their mind, or if they're like, oh, it's just another job, or if they're like, oh yeah, I'm happy that because like Haley Steinfeld plays Kate Bishop in the MCU, and now she also plays Gwen in this. That's two huge Marvel roles, but like I don't know if she ever really sits back and thinks like, oh, I have two huge Marvel roles, or she's just like, oh, those were jobs I did.
Okay, I'll say yes, but I'll push back a little bit because this is maybe more of a Sony role than a Marvel role.
Yeah, but it's in association with Marvel. Like they have the rights to it. It is still a Marvel character that she's playing. It's just not like an MCU. But again, that's what I wonder. Like, do they think of them as separate things because of that, or if she's like, man, I'm a pretty big name when it comes to Marvel. Like, there's little girls wearing at Halloween, you probably could have seen some people dressed up as Kate Bishop and as Gwen Stacy going around, and she could have been like, "Oh, that's two of my roles."
So I had no I have no real knowledge of Haley Steinfeld until this. So I don't know anything else I would have seen her in.
I think I'm going to pick a movie soon that was my introduction to her, which was Pitch Perfect, which you haven't seen, but it is good.
I know. I mean, well, and sometimes depending on the role, sometimes they're smaller roles. Like I found out earlier this week, Pedro Pascal was in an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh wow, yeah, he was playing a lot of bit roles before he kind of got the Game of Thrones bump.
And then, so Patton Oswalt had talked about that before. He played Remy the Rat in what's the movie there? The cooking movie with the rat.
Oh, Ratatouille.
Yeah, he plays Remy the Rat in Ratatouille, right?
Yes, yeah.
So one of his comedy bits, he talks about how he loves the holidays and he loves Halloween. So one year he said, Kate came dressed to his house as Remy the Rat, like after Ratatouille came out. And he did the voice for him, and it scared the hell out of the kid because he wasn't used to seeing. But he's the real voice. Ray Romano, who does the voice. What's the mammoth from Ice Age?
Yeah, I don't know the mammoth's name. I don't really watch Ice Age that much.
but I think he does the voice of
Yeah,
Mammy.
he
I
does
think
the
it's
voice.
Mammy. He does the voice of Mammy the Mammoth from Ice Age. And I think he was playing. He was with a buddy of mine, and that was his friend's kid's like favorite movie. And he did the voice for him, and he's like, "My dad does it better." So he got a little humbled from that. But
That's funny. Um, yeah. So we have it get to the point here where he's going to do some graffiti with his
this is
uncle.
also the first introduction of who we find out is Gwen Stacy.
Yes, Gwanda. That we'll get to their full introduction once, because in this scene, yeah, she laughs at his joke, um, or laughs at the awkwardness after he says his joke. But anyway, um, he'll get really introduced to her after his powers. So he goes to his uncle's house. This is a good setup too
Before
here.
that, would you ever do something like his dad did to him?
Oh, with the did you say did my parents ever do that?
Would you?
Oh, would
Would you
I?
ever? Yeah.
No, no, I can't do. I know what it's like to be embarrassed. I don't think I would be able to do that. Would you do it?
Nah, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that to a kid. That could ruin a kid's entire like middle and high school life.
I guess he's also thinking like, hey, it's a nerd school. Like he'll be he'll be fine.
But even so, there's still hierarchies in the nerd school, man.
Yes.
You're pushing that kid all the way down the hierarchy.
So he goes to his uncle's house, Uncle Aaron, and he is going to talk to his uncle about Gwen. He doesn't know her name at this time yet, but it was really really interesting when the uncle tells him about the shoulder touch, and you get some fun stuff with that. But it actually comes full circle with the end of the movie as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he tries this out on Gwen when he gets the powers. We'll talk about that later. But they go and decide they're going to do some graffiti here and in a tunnel under the subway area, like an abandoned tunnel there.
Where
And
his uncle says he's done some engineering work down there.
Yes. Yeah, I do think he is an engineer. I think that's why.
Possibly, but I think his work was not engineering, so to speak.
Yeah, true. Could be because I was thinking maybe he was being honest, and then that's how he got recruited by Fisk, and then how he knew about the area to build all that stuff back there. That was my thought, but you're right. It could just be him being like, "Oh, I have to cover this up here."
Not only that, but he knew nobody goes down because
Yeah.
he's been to that area. He works in that area, so he knows nobody really goes down there, and he wanted to look a little brighter and more colorful as he's going to work. I guess I don't know.
Yes. Needed, cheer him up. So you paint the graffiti, and then you get the spider bite here, and this is a spider from another universe as it glitches, I believe, at a certain point.
Was it? Or so I wasn't sure if it was a mechanical spider. Because I know there was whatever. What's the company? It's not Oscorp.
Alchemex is what they had.
Yeah. So obviously it's a spider from Alchemex, and I think they show it's a spider from It might even say Alchemex on the spider or something. I can't remember. But yeah, I wasn't sure if it was like a mechanical spider, if it was radioactive, like what was going on.
I'll say it's elaborated on in the sequel. A little bit more of an answer there, but
Okay.
I believe, if I remember correctly, it does glitch, which I think is the sign that it is from another dimension, like how the others glitch in their time in this world. But he gets bit, and I really loved this scene when I first saw it too. And this was another one that I think really won the audience over early in the movie. Here was it's this big dramatic moment, and then you just see him like slap it down, like, oh,
he
that's weird. Yeah.
I'm surprised the spider died.
Yeah, I guess he hit it hard enough, or maybe it's something to do with the
like
if it is from another universe, a glitch. Maybe it just ends up dying because they talk about like how the others will die if they don't get back home.
Yeah, there's that, or like maybe with a bee sting, maybe with that particular spider. once a bee stings you, that's it. Um,
But yeah, so he thinks nothing of it. Goes home to his school, and
I'm going to
then
the hospital if I'm getting bit by a spider.
yeah, you should. If you're listening to this, if you never do what Peter and Miles do in these movies, which is I'll sleep it off. I'll be okay. And then, if you wake up after that and your glasses are no longer needed and stuff and you look really buff, then maybe something's wrong. Maybe go get checked out. Um but yeah, so he sleeps it off. He wakes up, and then throughout the day he starts having these issues, and this is one of my favorite sequences because you get his um his run-in with Gwen when she is about to say Gwen, and I guess she decides not to because maybe she doesn't know if these people know about Gwen Stacy in their universe or not. So I think she just thought against it. She goes Gwanda, says it's South African. Um, and then she he does the shoulder touch and accidentally gets stuck to her with the spider hands, and then gets his hand stuck in her hair, and she ends up having to get a haircut here as he gets really
Okay,
stuck.
so let me ask you this, since I don't know much about Gwen Stacy. Um, is that a typical haircut for Gwen Stacy in the comics or other forms of media that she eventually ends up with? Is that, or is that something they did maybe specifically for the movie?
Um, just looking at artwork, because I haven't read too much of like her universe. Gwen's like when she's not Spider Woman, this is not like her hairstyle. And when I'm looking in comics right now, it doesn't usually look like she has this hairstyle either. So this is kind of like an original for the movie.
I liked it. Don't get me wrong. I just
Mm-hmm.
wasn't sure if that was,
She makes it work,
yeah.
which is good for her because it could be embarrassing. She had to get some things fixed so it doesn't leave the imprint of the hand. She kind of fixes that part of it, but um, she makes it work with her personality and her. She gets over it. But she does tell him he doesn't get to like her haircut when they meet again later. But yeah, so then this is where he's trying to run away, and then his this is one of my favorite parts. I don't know why, but I just always love this part when the security guard stops him and says, "Hey, I know about like
I
you
know you snuck out
breaking
last night.
curfew." So he's thinking like play dumb, and he's like, "Who's Morales?" And then it's just like not that dumb. And then he just flows past him. And then you have like the Spider-Man Christmas tune playing in the guy's office when he's trying to because he runs away and he ends up in the security guard's office instead of running anywhere else, and is able to then walk on the ceilings and the windows outside, and ends up getting away that way. But just a fun little scene there. But then we kind of get into the darker part of this where he will have the powers. He sees um, the stuff going down in because he's going back to check out the spider, right? Because he's like, hey, this is where I got bit. All this stuff is going on. I'm going to check out the spider. And this is where he kind of hears the Prowler, who will be revealed to be Uncle Aaron, and then having all those conversations and seeing stuff going on with Kingpin, and then you see Spider-Man facing Green Goblin. So he kind of sneaks in and has a nice meeting with Peter Parker here, who is going to pledge to train him after they stop this machine. But he's actually Spider-Man's going to die here, which was did you expect this? Did you know that he was going to die or?
Oh no, this came from out of left field. I had no clue about this. So, um, okay, so before that, there was the explosion. Or was that after?
Um, the explosion happens, and then in the rubble is when Kingpin kills him. Yes.
Yeah. So, uh, I remember seeing the explosion, right? I definitely remember seeing the explosion, and I watched it, and I thought I saw something in it, but I was like, I don't know, it's just an explosion. Come to find out, it was actually the different spider variants being released out into the explosion. Because I didn't see that until later when I think it might have been Peter B. Parker or someone else, where they show the explosion in New York City or whatever, and then you see like one little individual like streak across the sky, and I was like, oh, so that was something. So I'm glad I caught that. But yeah, I did not expect Kingpin to kill him. Because in all fairness, you've seen so many of these movies with superheroes and various things. They never die. Or if they die, it's because it's like it's the end of the series. You know, with Tony Stark, it's when I haven't seen it, but it's Logan in Logan, right? It's something like where it's the end of something, and either they're moving on to another character or they're ending the series. Probably wouldn't even say ending. They're giving it a pause before they reboot it eventually, like 5 years down the road, right?
Right.
But like they're coming to a definitive end, and you at least know going in, or you can tell by the movie that that's the definitive end of that. So, I thought maybe he was gonna jump down and knock the gun out the dude's hand, or like do a kick on him or something. I did not expect that. Not only did I not expect that Kingpin was just gonna smash him and kill him right then and there, didn't expect that like 30 seconds later, like all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, Spider-Man is dead," and then they finally reveal who he is and everything. Because I'm like, wait a minute. One, how did they find out Spider-Man was dead? Like, did they find the body or whatever? Like, how did they put all that together?
Yeah, I assume with the explosion, somebody responded to it and they left his body there, and that was kind of, I guess, Wilson's message to everyone of like, hey,
I'm in charge now.
I'm in charge.
Maybe. I mean, maybe, but I hadn't thought of that. But I was just like, yeah, and it just rolled straight into like, oh, like New York City's mourning because Spider-Man's dead. I was like, wait a minute, they found it, like, and then obviously now they know who he is, Peter Parker, blah blah blah, and I'm just like, wait a minute, he's actually dead. Like, this isn't cool. Like, you're supposed to train him. Like, what's going on?
You're like, this is a weird turn of events.
This is not supposed to happen. What is going on?
And that's funny because like my thought process when I went into it was, oh, I'm surprised Peter's in this, because I was like, he's usually dead in Miles comics and stuff. So then when they killed him off, I was like, oh, okay, like that makes sense. But I think I'd maybe seen ads of Spider-Man being in it as well, and then you're like, wait, so how are they going to do this? And then I like that he goes home and his parents his dad especially is like, aren't you supposed to be in school, like at your in your room, not past curfew here? But the mom's like, we gotta let him stay. Like, he looks a little shaken by something.
He's obviously going through something right now. So.
Yes. They don't pick up though with his question about, do you really hate Spider-Man, that he already knows Spider-Man's dead. Maybe they did find out, thinking like, oh, he must have saw that on his way over here, and then that's what made him upset, I guess. Because then they turn on the TV, the parents, and see it, and then we get the morning stuff. We get the Stan Lee cameo here, where he's selling Spider-Man costumes.
So I read about this. This was one of the last things he recorded before he passed.
Yes.
And apparently they put him. He's in a bunch of the subway cars throughout the movie as well. I read.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta be honest, that hit me.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting Stan Lee in this movie. Like I didn't know what to expect. One, I wasn't expecting a Spider-Man to die. So now I'm just kind of like, what's going on?
Right.
And then you hear that voice, and you know that voice, and I'm like, oh wait, they got Stan Lee. So like I said, I looked some stuff up. Saw it was like one of the last things he recorded. I saw that they also went to him to get the recording. Everyone else had to go into the studio, but
right.
It's Stanley, and he's up in his 90s or whatever. If you're
Right.
gonna make an exception for anybody, you make an exception for Stanley. Like that's understandable. And then they talked about they wanted to include the fact that anybody can wear the mask. And I guess that's something he's always talked about throughout the history of the comics.
Yeah.
And that got me, and I was just like, man, here it is. Like, I was not expecting this today. Like, come on, I'm like, it's supposed to be a happy day, and now I'm on the verge of tears because now I'm looking at Stanley.
Yeah.
Who
You're
doesn't
like
want to
ringing
get
in the
hurt?
new year. You're
Yeah.
like, I guess.
As he's smirking next to a no refunds whatsoever sign. But.
Yes, and it make it it's a nice touching thing in this scene where Spider-Man is dead, but it also like they hit the right note there of like, he's saying the suit always fits, but he's also saying it in a way of like,
Yeah,
too
you're not getting your
bad
money
it's
back.
no refund.
Yeah, you're not getting your money back whatsoever.
With like the shining on the teeth and everything. Yeah.
But yeah, I can kind of get what he was saying of, yeah, the suit always fits and anyone can wear the mask.
Yeah, that's a part that gets me at the end of the movie all the time, not to jump there, but like I always, except for maybe the first time because I was just riding the high of like the first time I saw it in theaters or whatever, I'm not sure, but like I actually get more emotional with movies as I watch them over again. So like unless if it's like some of the Disney Pixar stuff, like I cried like a baby the first time I saw Up, and I haven't really revisited it because I don't want to bawl my eyes out all the time. So but with this one, like I don't remember tearing up in the theaters at the end here when he says, he's doing his, for the last few weeks I've been Spider-Man, and anyone can wear the mask, you can wear the mask, like. But now every time I watch this, that is the part that gets me every single time. I tear up. And it's part of why I think I love this movie so much is the message behind it, because this is something Stan Lee has preached. People will say now, like, why has Marvel got to be so political and stuff? Read his soapboxes in the back of the comics from the 60s, where he is saying, where people are writing in, like, why'd you have to create this black character? And he is like, they exist in the world, and I want to be showing examples of these people and different diverse things in the world. And he constantly was somebody that fought for that. So when people try to use his name sometimes, is like, oh, he'd be very upset with the direction of some of the stuff. You're wrong. He fought for this type of stuff. So the fact that it was so true to his message, and
he literally fought. He was a World War II veteran.
Right.
I've told the story before. I met him once. He was an awesome dude, just warm and genuine. He was like 90 years old, and he snuck up on us in a room of like 300 people. He was the reason all 300 of us were there to meet him.
And he still snuck up on you.
Yeah, we were going around the room giving like our little introductions because it was a veterans thing, and like, hi, I'm Casey, U.S. Army. I'm a photographer. Blah blah blah. Get all the way around the room, and it's like, is there anybody else? And after about 20 people, everybody just kind of zones out until it gets to you. And then once you say your little piece of who you are, what you're doing, you kind of zone out because you realize the room's full. And you're just like, right, whatever. And then you hear that voice. And yeah, we got snuck up on by 92-year-old Stan. Awesome dude. But I've also found, I'm 45 now. As I'm getting older, I'm getting more emotional about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this movie definitely had me tear up. There's, like you said, you don't want to watch Up anymore because you don't want to do that. I don't think I can watch the original Lion King anymore because every time Mufasa goes, I'm going to lose it. And I will watch Futurama over and over, like I'll binge through it. But there's actually 2 episodes now, but one for sure I will never watch that episode again.
You just skip it?
It's called Jurassic Park. And it's about Fry and his dog. And he finds basic premises. Fry gets cryogenically frozen. He comes out in the year 2000, going in from New Year's Eve. He gets cryogenically frozen in the year going into the year 2000. He gets unfrozen 1,000 years later. And at some point, he finds his dog, and they can. they can bring his dog back. They have the technology. You know, they can make a clone of his dog, and he's for it for a while, and then he decides no. But then it shows you what happened to his dog in the very end, and that's where I lose it. And especially if you go on, like if you go on Twitter, there's a bunch of people. It's usually called that episode, where people just talk about nope, won't watch that episode. They just can't do it. Especially you have dogs. I know.
Yes, yeah, that'll wreck me. I can't watch that.
Watch it once just to watch it, but after that, so even I watched it on Hulu not that long ago, and you're sitting there watching it, and then it comes up in the corner next episode, season whatever, and it gives you the title. And I was sitting there, and I'm doing something on my phone, and I happened to look up, and I saw the title, and I was
no,
we are skipping this episode. Yeah, but I find as I'm getting older, I'm getting more emotional with stuff, and yeah, that's happening. So yeah, I definitely teared up a couple times during this movie.
And there's a great scene here too when Mary Jane is talking to everybody, and then saying about how it's they're looking toward the next person to step up or whatever, and Miles is they're talking about me because he has the powers and stuff, but the guy next to him is I think the metaphorical you and not really you.
Yeah.
Use the collective, not just you.
We as a city need to step up and do our part to help make it a better place.
And I just think that's funny because that guy has no clue that he's talking to the next Spider-Man there. But we then get going to the graveyard, and this is when we get introduced to Peter B. Parker.
Okay, so why is it Peter B. Parker? Is it like I said because the other one is Peter A. Parker?
That's what I believe. Yes, it was a joke from the first one, just saying Peter Parker, and then it being Peter B. Parker, he's the B. But also, his middle name is probably, I would assume, Benjamin after his Uncle Ben. That's what I would guess.
Okay.
But yeah, we get introduced to him. This one's played by Jake Johnson. The last one was played by why am I blanking? Chris Pine. Chris Pine playing the blonde hair, blue-eyed Spider-Man, while Jake Johnson playing the brown eye, brown hair Peter B. Parker, which when you contrast it to the Peter A. Parker one, right, where he is kind of at the top of his game, everything going well, you get this guy down on his luck. He's saying he's doing what crunch is, but he's really just eating pizza when this portal opens up.
He's separated from Mary Jane. He opened up a Spider-Man restaurant that
TGI
failed.
Spidey's, yes.
Yeah, Spidey's there. He's got the Tobey Maguire crappy one-bedroom apartment going.
Yes.
And
he separates because he doesn't want kids. Mary Jane does. And
he gets he gets many comments throughout the movie about his size.
Yeah. Well, because for half of it, he's going around in sweatpants.
Hey, look, man,
no Spider-Man bottoms, just sweatpants.
Hey, look, sweatpants are comfy, man.
They are. I wear them almost exclusively, unless if I'm at work. So I do like sweatpants, but I have more of the athletic sweatpants. I don't really like the thick
gray ones there.
Yeah. But yeah, Jake Johnson, I think he does a great job as Peter B. Parker here, and he is the reluctant hero, I would say. Right? He's the guy that doesn't want to train. He's almost like Yoda, where Yoda's talking to Ben Kenobi saying, I can't train him, he's too old. He's constantly telling Miles it's not going to happen. He's going to take care of the thing himself. He's going to go back home. That's it. But
what did he call the little memory stick?
Goobers. Yeah, little goober.
Give me the goober. There's always a button or always a code you got to input or something.
Yes,
you got to
override key, a button, whatever.
I just call them goobers.
I liked Miles' reaction to that, of being like, he called it an override key. He's like, yep, that's fine. Like, it is what it is. And then Aunt May is going to call it a goober later too. So you do show that even our Peter Parker was one to call it a goober as well. Just he explained it a little bit more to Miles.
Yeah.
So we get this introduction here. The first thing he wants to do is go get this burger from a place that closed down 6 years ago. And you know what? This is one of the most relatable things Spider-Man has ever done.
Before that, remember now he knocked him out or something.
Oh yeah, and he has to run away
now,
from the cops.
Yeah, now they're looking for a teenage Spider-Man
dragging a homeless guy,
a homeless corpse throughout the city.
And it gets stuck to the train, and then I like when he gets the snowman face on him, and the snowman's face like changes as it's going across the window and stuff.
Yeah, and they finally land, and he's like, just go around us.
Yeah,
thanks, New York. Just go around.
Thanks, New York.
And just like in New York City, everybody's just like, yeah, whatever, and they just you just see them eventually just start going around. Yeah.
But yeah, then they go to get a burger at a place that's closed 6 years ago. This is what I would do too. There's so many there's some places that you think about, you're like, man, that place closed. I would love to have gotten that thing before it closed.
Yeah.
And I love that he goes there. He's like, yeah, 6 years ago, this thing closed down. I'm getting this burger. He doesn't have the money to pay for it, so he's going to get Miles to pay for it. And they just have this conversation about, yes, we have to go to this place. And pretty much because the goober is broken, because Miles tried swinging, when he got his powers, broke it. They have to pretty much go to the computer at Alchemex and create a whole new key is what the plan here is. So that's their plan. He's reluctant to have Miles go with them, so he wants them to wait outside. But I love this part when they're explaining the plan, and then he's going to walk towards the guy scientist, and then Miles is like, it's actually the woman. I saw it in a video at my school or whatever. He's like, oh, okay, then I'll have to reevaluate my preconceived notions.
Even before that, the fact that they have to take a bus.
Yes, he said we're not swinging all the way to the Hampton or whatever.
So now they're just two Spider-Men. And then later, you see the same thing. You see all the Spider-Men.
All the Spider-Men get off there.
Getting off a bus, and it's just like... But then again, in a place like New York City, where you might see something like that, the people on the bus are probably just like, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, they don't know if it's the real Spider-Man. They would be like, Spider-Man's not really on a bus, right? Like, they wouldn't take a bus.
Well, I mean, so obviously Christmas just happened a couple weeks ago, and... They have a Santa Con up there every year around Christmas. So I'm sure at some point on the subway and the bus,
yeah, true.
There's a random whole subway car full of or bus full of Santas. And imagine around New York City Comic-Con times.
Yes.
Where you might see a bunch of random characters on a bus or a subway car. And
they don't have Comic-Con in this universe. Did you catch that?
Yeah, I did hear. What's Comic-Con?
Yeah, because Peter mentions it from his universe, yeah.
But like I said, imagine Comic-Con, and then you just a whole subway car full of whatever random characters getting off, or a bus full of whatever, and there's normal people on there. Most are probably just like, whatever, dude, I just got to get to work.
Yeah, but yeah, so they take the bus there. I like that, he gets I'll have to reevaluate my, whatever he says, his preconceived notions there with not believing the woman scientist would be the one in charge. And then I also love this part where they're crawling through the tunnel here, through the air ducts, and you get the overheard conversation of Kingpin with Olivia Octavius here, where he's like, oh yeah, pretty standard stakes, blah, 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 blah.
He's got 24 hours.
24 hours. Then he says it. And then he says, oh, that's bad. And he said, actually, all that stuff was bad. I was just lying before or whatever.
The great thing is, and so Peter B. Parker is a little older. He's a little paunchier, right? He's been Spider-Man for a minute now, right?
Yeah, he's like the 30-year-old. He's in his 30s. Well, the last one I think they said was 26.
He's got a 5 o'clock shadow. He's got some gray. He's got some salt and pepper going in the hair, right? So he's been doing this for a while. So yeah, imagine if you're like him and you've done this for 15 years, right? So yeah, you're like, okay, yeah, you've got 24 hours. Okay, whatever. Blah blah blah. Well, go ahead, leave the room, and I can climb down and do my stuff now.
Yes, and we learned some of Miles' new powers here because he accidentally turns invisible. He can't do it on command though. Um, and Peter is kind of stalling Olivia when she comes in while they're trying to break into the computer here. I also think it's great how fast he was able to remember that password and how he was like trying to tell Miles. He's like, remember this. It's like B up 3, 4, 5, 6. I was like, how do you remember all this?
And then Miles can't remember it, so he's got
the last two.
You don't look a day over 35.
Yes. Also, then when he's just trying to walk out of there with the monitor and the computer, and he's invisible. And then when he grabs the monitor, throws it, and says, "Good news, we don't need this."
Yeah, I was gonna say, I just have one issue with that, right? So Miles is a fairly smart kid, right?
Yeah.
He's going to a school for like gifted, for young gifted people. He won a lottery to get in, right? So you telling me he didn't know he didn't need the monitor? He just needed the actual CPU, the tower.
I thought about that too, but what I was wondering is if his thought was, we're gonna take this into a different area real quick and like plug it in and get this worked out. You know what I'm saying? Or like if he thought, okay, we're running away fully right now.
Okay, maybe I'll give you that. Like, yeah, they're gonna take it into the next room, just plug it back in real quick.
Because they took a whole bus up there, so maybe he's thinking even if they get out of this place, they find like a cafe and just plug this thing in real quick. I don't know. But
go to a Starbucks and take a whole desktop.
Yeah, with this whole desktop. So then they escape and
whoa! Before that,
through the cafeteria.
This was my second shock of the movie.
Oh, the Octavius part, right?
I was not expecting Olivia Octavius. I remember seeing Catherine Hahn's character. I remember seeing Olivia, like you said, earlier in the movie, where they showed her working for, what is it? I can't remember the name.
Alchemex, yeah.
Alchemex. Well, she's working for Alchemex, right? And she's on the screen doing whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then when Miles tells him, no, it's her, I remember seeing her from a thing in school. Okay. So I knew she was a central character of some sort, right? I didn't know who she was.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was kind of surprised where she recognized Peter, and I was like, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. Like, what's going on here? And then when she busted out the name of Olivia Octavius, I was like, oh, that's a good twist on this. Like, I had not anticipated that we would have a female Doc Ock.
Yes.
I would love to see more of Catherine Hahn as this Doc Ock. Her origin story, I think, would be fantastic just to see. I'm sure it's similar, if not the same.
Right.
Once again, Catherine Hahn is awesome, so to get more of her in this role would be great. But yeah, like that was my next shock, where I did not expect that whatsoever.
Yeah, and that was something that shocked me when I saw this the first time too in theaters, because like, remember, this movie wasn't as big of a hit, right? So in my mind, like, it wasn't as anticipated. So nowadays, you get people trying to scoop or spoil stuff for all of these movies all the time.
Yeah.
I went in to see No Way Home knowing, because of leaks, that Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, and Tobey Maguire were all in the movie as Spider-Man.
Well, those leaks had also been out for like 2 years before the movie too. No matter how much they tried to.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I actually saw like clips, like I saw the set photo, all that kind of stuff. This movie,
I hadn't seen all that. I just like for like at least a year, if not longer, before that one. Like there was the aspect of like all three Spider-Men were going to be in there. But yeah, like in all fairness, like you said, yeah, people try and spoil everything now.
Because now, even with Across the Spider-Verse, I went into it. I'm not going to say anything. I went into it knowing more stuff than I went into knowing this. Because people then knew it was going to be a hit and they were trying to scoop it. People were interested in spoiling it. This movie, I went in with knowing pretty much nothing about, and I think that's why it hit so well for me too, is these twists worked because they weren't spoiled. Nowadays, you get somebody, especially animated, can kind of hide this stuff a little bit more. nowadays, like with live action, if Marvel Studios says, "Hey, we signed Catherine Hahn to a movie," usually Variety will say they're playing this character. This did not happen for the animated films. It was just like you go in and then you find out this stuff, and that's what made it work so well, I think, because this twist really did hit, because you're not expecting that. You're in this other universe. There's other hints to it, because you have Green Goblin is not like Goblin. He's more like Ultimate Universe Goblin, where he's like a full goblin with wings and not just a guy
The
in
dude in the
a
suit.
mask. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's your your hint a bit that there can be different things going on here, and I really like this change here.
But yeah, so once she, especially once she kind of had that smile and was like, she can't wait to crush you or see you get crushed or something. And I was like, wait a minute. That's when he's like, what did you say your name was?
Yeah, because he hadn't been told her name yet. And then I like when he says, "So your friends call you Doc Ock?" She says, "No, my friends call me Livy. My enemies call me Doc Ock."
Yeah, like that was my next big shock, where I sat there and I was like, oh, this is about to get real interesting here.
Mm-hmm.
Another question, real quick, while it's on my head. Why did they give Kingpin such a big body and a little head?
I think they based him off of a certain design he has in the comics, which is not like, I mean, it does not this drastic, but I think they were trying to be a little stylized here
I'll
because
give
he's
him that.
huge.
He's a huge dude, and then he's got like a little itty bitty head.
Yeah.
You know what? I thought of like the old Super Mario Brothers movie. I think it was one of the Goombas or something were built like that, where they had this massive body and just this little Goomba head or something.
That's funny. Yeah, he does look. I was thinking about it too when I was picturing like his wife looks normal, and I'm like, how did this work? What? But yeah. So while they're escaping, they go through
And
the
then the
cafeteria.
arms come out from her back and everything, and that's
Oh
when
yeah,
you're
and they're
like,
like different
oh.
arms too. They're not like metal. They're kind of like this hydraulic almost, right? It's like almost a tube.
And it doesn't look like they're. I don't know because they didn't show too much, but I can't really tell if it's connected to her body in the way that some of the ones
Yeah, I
we've
don't
seen
think it.
before.
I think it's like something she's wearing. I don't think it's like in her. Like I don't think it's attached to her the way that the other
Well, like in all
Doc
fairness,
Ock,
the only other Doc Ock I know is
Alfred
from
Molina's.
is Alfred Molina's one. Well, that one got fused to his body. I don't know how accurate that is to the comics or whatever.
I don't think it's that
Um,
accurate actually. I remember. I think in the comics he just wears the suit, if I remember right.
so, yeah, the Alfred Molina was the only one I know, and he did an awesome job with it. So, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know where to go from
But Miles is going to help him kind of get out of this a bit. They're going to run away. And they go through
that.
the
And then we get Gwen
cafeteria
Stacy.
where all of these all these workers are.
Oh yeah,
They
in
all
the
jump up with
cafeteria.
their guns.
Even before that, just that cool. Just
Yeah.
and then they're
Grab
just
a
walking
bagel.
along like doo doo doo.
I like Miles throwing the bagel too. At them.
Yeah, the bagel bit was great. There was something I saw about that too, where I think they added it in or whatever. But yeah, where he throws the bagel and just hits him. So before we go any further, the animation in this
Mm-hmm.
throughout is fantastic.
Yes.
Because I don't know if we'll get a chance to talk about it later. The different art styles that you have from the start of the movie, incorporating the different spider people in their own different versions of their own art style that would be in their Spider-Verse, like Spider Noir and Spider Ham.
Yeah, because Spider Ham looks like a WB Looney Tunes.
A Looney Tunes, yeah.
Yeah.
The Penny Parker is a completely different animation style, like
Right.
in anime. I love the comic book things throughout it of the thwips and the, like we said, the bagel crack, all the stuff that you would see,
Batman 66 type stuff.
But yeah, all the stuff that would be in a comic book, right? That they had that they would have to show in a comic book for you to get the gist of what's happening.
And the way that it is, like almost like the frames per second is different. Like they move differently. It's really interesting.
It is because the way it was explained when I read on it was as Miles is learning. So he starts off at like a 12 frame. Like that's why he's kind of glitchy and his stuff isn't as smooth because he doesn't know what he's doing yet. He's still learning how to fly or how to do everything and how to be Spider-Man. And he's in those very beginning stages where everything is awkward and he doesn't know how to do anything. So that's why everything is, the animation is geared that way. And as it goes along and he gets better at it, it eventually he does catch up and he does eventually get to the full 24 frames a second that everyone else does. And like I said, I have the HDR, the HD Blu-ray of this. Oh, this looks fantastic. Visually, like color-wise and everything, this might be one of the best looking discs I've ever seen. With the HDR and everything going into it.
I wish I had the 4K one. I have just the normal one. I have the 4K for Across the Spider-Verse, but I need to upgrade this when I upgrade my
I think even the Blu-ray would look great, but I bought it in the 4K and it, like I said, it looks amazing.
Oh, I bet.
It honestly might be one of the best ones best discs I've ever watched. Color palette and everything. And like I said, the animation really is fantastic throughout the course of the whole movie.
Yeah, it has so much style. You know, it just like, and it's something that I think it's talked about when you look at right now, and I don't want to go too far into off topic, but when you look at the year that Disney had last year, where their animated films and even some of their live action films weren't hitting as well. So, and they haven't really had a hit animation wise since Encanto culturally. That movie didn't do great at the box office, but once it hit Disney Plus, it was a hit. But like there are two films following that, and some of the Pixar ones following that were not as big hits. Part of the things that you look at is a lot of their Disney films right now look a lot the same. Like Rapunzel looks similar to the characters from Frozen because they kind of have that style. That's the Disney style. But when you have a movie like this that can just come out there and be like, this is our style, we're going to lean into this. That's part of the reason why it won the Oscar, because it was going up against Wreck-It Ralph 2, which I think Disney thought they had a way. Like I remember Disney, I think, put out like Blu-rays that said they won the Academy Award for it because they had just printed it up before. Like, I think they thought they had it locked.
I read this was the first non-Disney or Pixar one in like 10 years.
Exactly. That's why Disney was so confident.
That won the Academy Award for Best Animation Feature.
And really, Sony didn't have big history on doing great animation films, right? And this one just comes along and knocks out of the park animation wise, and then you also add on the story and the acting and stuff, and it just it totally deserved it. I'm a Disney fanboy. I worked there. I have podcasts about it, but I was rooting for this one to win because this showed what you can do with the medium of animation, and I mean, it's fantastic, and I can't say enough about the style. I watched this thing. Look, this is probably the 7th time, something like that I watched this movie, maybe more, and I still can't get over it when I'm watching it. Like, this animation is unreal. Like, it's just unreal.
It was something I read about leading into it and had heard about before, and as I was getting ready to watch it, read about like I said, so it was the first non-Disney or Pixar movie in like a decade to win. And everything. And they talked about, the different visual styles for different spider peoples and everything and how they worked within the frames per second. But they just talked about in general, like this was something they worked really hard on. And reading about it, hearing about it, and then seeing it, like reading about and hearing about can't compare you for what you're about to see. Like that's honestly the only way I can really describe it is there's no way to accurately describe what a treat you are in for visually when you watch this movie. And that I would like to see. I don't know if Sony has any more animation things lined up outside of the third Spider-Verse movie in a couple years or whatever. But this shows that they have the capability, and I would like to see what they could do with some other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you read out the list of movies that they did before this, none of them are like amazing, right? Like Open Season, Surf's Up, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, The Smurfs, Hotel Transylvania, Angry Birds, Peter Rabbit, like and Goosebumps. Some of those are not even fully animated movies. They're like but that's who made them, Sony Pictures Animation. But none of them have the animation that like this does when it came
It
to it.
doesn't
So
they
like,
don't have the visual style that
yeah,
this movie
it just
does.
totally like upped everything with because I would say Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs kind of looks like Hotel Transylvania. Like they kind of had a similar
Yeah, those are
style.
similar. Yeah.
But this one like really is like, hey, we're here. And yeah, I would love to see what they do going forward because I mean, Sony has kind of played everything correctly right now. They jumped on the MCU when they needed to. They've been producing other movies like the Venom movies that were hits. They had the Jumanji films go their way. They had this stuff go their way. And now they don't have a streaming service to worry about. So they're making money off of licensing this stuff. They're pretty set up. Like they're pretty set that they could maybe take a risk and do something else if they wanted to animation wise. Um, so yeah, we get introduced to Gwen here as her Spider Woman, and then we get the comic book opening of her, and we
Yeah.
learn that Peter was who she lost. And but I don't know if you noticed this on there, but Peter was the Lizard in this universe.
So I okay, so I remember seeing that she was fighting the Lizard. But I thought it was still, what is it, Dr. Connors?
Yes.
I wasn't sure how Peter, either I didn't pay attention close enough in that, but I saw that she was like, because you see her fighting the Lizard through shadows, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, okay, I was able to get the gist, okay, that's the Lizard, cool, got that. But then I saw some other stuff, and maybe I was looking up stuff on my phone, so I probably didn't pay attention close enough. And then I saw Peter died, so I thought maybe he just got caught in the crossfire.
Yeah, she on Earth 65, I believe this is in the comics too, that her Peter turns into the Lizard. So they don't really notice it. They don't really show it too much on here. You do see Peter like dying, and it looks like he's a little scaly and she's saying stuff, but like I don't think it was as clear, as that was kind of a nice illusion, I think, to it. But yeah, just pretty interesting how they were able to pull in some of these deep cuts like this. And
I will be honest. I am surprised that they have not done spin-off films of these characters. Like, I'm surprised we have not had a Spider-Gwen animated feature.
I think they're working on one for her.
Or Spider-Ham. There was a Spider-Ham animated short.
I think they're trying to make a series of that, but like I don't know, it's taken them a while to do anything regarding this. So yeah, you're right.
Because usually, and maybe because this wasn't a total hit until later, maybe that might have been part of the reason why they haven't. But you know yourself, usually if they have if their opening weekend is like massive, usually either beforehand or right after that, they're greenlighting and saying, go ahead, let's work on spinning this off. And and I mean, it is a multiverse as it is, so it has the capability. You have, at least with these characters that we've seen in this movie, like I would like to see a Spider-Gwen series.
Yes.
and what's going on
Same.
in her world. I'd like to see a Spider-Noir, Spider-Ham. I'm not into anime, but I might be interested in seeing a Penny Parker, what's going on in her universe or something. Or even if they did a series and maybe like every second or third cartoon was a different version, like of what's a different Spider-Verse, maybe you have like 2 or 3 to kind of have a story of like Penny Parker. And then after like the third one, then you move on to Spider-Noir, He
Give us
gets a
like
3 or
a
4.
Twilight Zone of Spider-Verse. Each
But
week's a different
give us like 3 or
thing.
4 if they're like 30-minute cartoons. Give us like 3 or
Yeah.
4 for him to have like a little arc, complete that little story arc, and then you move on to Spider-Gwen, and then that gives them time to like kind of like they can just leapfrog everything and so on and so forth. But
Now, you said you were not too familiar with Gwen Stacy, right? So,
no,
did this reveal get you too, or did you already have suspicions of her from earlier, or like?
it did get me. Because honestly, I thought she was just a random student uh in the movie. I thought she was just a random co-student in his class. I did not realize that she was Spider Gwen, and then when she took it off, I was like, oh, okay. And then her story, where she talks about she got knocked into last week, literally, and then her story kind of like, so she's like, something told me to go to this academy, and I don't know how she got enrolled in school, but whatever. Okay,
And then she
cool.
even like, she purposely leans into Miles when he accidentally bumps into her. Like she has the back like this, and she kind of like bumps into him on purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you once you see more of that, you realize like, yeah, she was around him on purpose because she was able to sense that as they all say, you're just like me,
Yep.
right? So she was able to realize that's why she was drawn to the academy, and that's why she had a connection with him and everything. So yeah, yeah, that kind of took me by surprise too, but it was a very pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
Um,
And then they all take the bus back together. Gwen, Peter, um and Miles,
I
and
don't
they
know why that tickles me, but
just taking a
just to
bus.
see Spider-Man and various other people just riding the bus like normal everyday people do.
Well, the issue with Spider-Man, right, is he needs something to swing from. So the the issue becomes, we kind of see it in Homecoming too, when he goes to that party, and he's in the middle of suburbia and he tries to swing, and you're like, oh, there's nothing here, and he's like running
Yeah.
through people's yards. So I'm guessing with how far this thing is out, it's a little tough to reach there without taking the old bus.
All right, let me ask you one quick question. A little off topic, but it ties into what we were just saying. So, some video game reviewers I saw with Spider-Man 2 said they were kind of tired of the New York scene. Like they want Spider-Man to go elsewhere. So, Far From Home, they took him to Europe, right? Was that the one? Was it Far From
Yeah,
Home?
Far From Home. Yep.
Far From Home, they took him on a class trip to Europe. As I've told you before, I never really read comics as a kid. Spider-Man has always been known as a New York
Yep.
centric superhero. And I get maybe he could go on a random excursion to other cities for like an issue or two. Or like we saw in Far From Home, he goes to Europe and he's doing stuff over there. Has Spider-Man really been anywhere else? Because, like I said, some of the reviewers were talking about there because they've with Spider-Man 2, they did say it was great, but they're tired of the scene of New York City and so on and so forth. But I'm thinking like, where else can he really go? Especially
Right.
like someone
Those,
brought up like Nebraska. Like someone brought up like, what do you want him to go to Nebraska? It's flat out there. There's no place, like you said, there's no place he can swing.
right,
Like
right. People then
so
be like, I can't do anything.
but so is he always pretty much just been
Yeah.
New York centric except for like one offs to random
Yeah, that's
other
why some
places?
people don't like Far From Home. They're like, he shouldn't be over there. Now, the most times that he's not in New York, I would say, is probably on like an Avengers mission or something. But otherwise, he's usually in New York. Um, and those complaints are so weird to me because one, they actually keep adding stuff to the New York, so there's more to see. Like they added some of Queens, even,
Yeah,
which
they
I'm
added
kind
more
of,
boroughs
yeah.
in the new game, I guess.
And the traversal is so much faster now in that game too, that it's, if you're, I don't know, like I don't know, if you're tired of New York and you're playing a Spider-Man game, then I'm just wondering if you're not a Spider-Man fan, because
I
I
just
think,
don't know if he's been anywhere else. Like, where are you going
yeah,
to put
no,
him?
I mean, like for those people complaining, I'm wondering if they're just like more gamers, that are like, oh, I'm kind of tired of this area, but like
I
it,
think that it may be it
yeah.
where they're just more of a game person, not the comic and the story and the character version. But
Right.
like I said, I just can't imagine. Maybe you could put him out to LA for a little bit, but once again, he's not really meant to be out there.
And LA's
Tokyo,
not, it doesn't have as huge high rise. Like it's not as much to swing
downtown
around.
LA does, but not once.
Not as wide as New
LA
York.
is
And
more of
that's
a
the
spread
problem.
out city too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe Tokyo, I could see. Tokyo has a lot of, but other than that, like I said, I can't imagine
Yeah.
Chicago, but there's not a lot of places that have the places that he needs to thwip back and forth to be able to swing everywhere. So
Just weird. Nobody ever had those complaints about Gotham for Batman. um,
but technically Gotham's not a real city, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, like also like in those they kept getting progressively bigger too because we had Arkham Asylum, then
Yeah.
Arkham City, and then full Gotham that you're able to explore in Arkham Knight. I'm guessing because New York is so big already that people are like, I don't think
With
people
Arkham
really
Knight,
appreciate it because
people complain more about the Batmobile with Arkham Knight than
yeah,
anything else.
like I don't think people can really appreciate it in these. Like I grew up in a time where swinging around New York wasn't as like doable as a thing. Eventually, they did with PS2 do
Yeah.
that, but even then, PS1, like the PS2 Spider-Man 1, he was swinging from the sky. He wasn't actually latched onto buildings until the Spider-Man 2 video game on PlayStation, and then from there, like it's still not as big or as accurate as what this one is. So, like, I
Yeah.
think sometimes people, will unfortunately be prisoners of the moment at times because like the fact that they have and he can move as fast as he can and the game can load as fast as it can is literally like a modern
Yeah, it's
technical
amazing.
achievement at this time. um so they get back, they decide they're going to go visit Aunt May because they think that she would be able to help, uh because of the previous Peter probably has having his his shed that they can work out of. um
Okay, so before we move further, what's the deal with the shed? Is this shed in the comics? Was this something that
no,
is in
it's not. I mean, I think there's probably been times where he had like a little shed to work out of, but it wasn't to this extent. So I think the what you're supposed to expect here, right, is what Peter B. Parker is thinking. Oh yeah, I have this shed too. Like he probably works in the shed. But then when it starts
just a
turning into
literal shed in the
yes,
backyard, like a like a 20 by 20 room shed in the backyard, and that was it.
right, and then
Uh,
it turns into an elevator, and he's like, oh, this is a little much, like a little pretentious or whatever he says, and it's almost like a bat cave in this bit
Yeah,
here.
I hadn't no knowledge of any shed or working, so I wasn't sure what was going on with that. I was like, am I
Yeah, I
missing
think this is
something?
just another instance of trying to one up Peter B. Parker of, him kind of experiencing what this other Peter is like here, where, um, he was younger, he was more in his prime, he had Mary Jane still, he had Aunt May still, because this is, of course, what we learn here when he says he doesn't want to, like, he didn't want to go to Aunt May because he knew how tough it would be for him. He says he hadn't seen her in a while. It's alluded to that she has passed away.
Yeah,
Um, and then in her universe, he's the one that passed away. So they both kind of have this nice moment where they are like recognizing each other, but she already knows right off the bat, you're not my Peter.
yeah, like they're not. There's a connection, but they're not the person that each other. They're not the actual person that each other is
Right.
needing.
And I love that too, though, that like they didn't go, I would think like a very cliche way would have been like where she thinks it's Peter, her Peter, and then it's like this secret they have to, I don't know. Like I feel like there'd be a cliche movie thing that happens. But I like that she is immediately like, no, you're not my Peter. All right, cool, but I'll help you guys. And actually they already had uh she's like, you guys think you're the only ones?
The
Uh
thought to come here, yeah,
she gives them the hello name tag thing. Like, you guys might need these. Three more jump down. This is where we get Spider Ham, Spider-Man Noir, and Penny Parker and her robot Spider. Um, this is I love this part too. Like we've talked about it before. The overlapping introductions. These are all real characters, by the way, in the comics. Even Penny Parker is. Uh, her first appearance was in 2014. Um, so still, these were all pretty new at this point, but she comes from like the year 3000 something, where
Yeah.
her spider is in her dad's robot and is able to communicate with her that way. It's very anime, I would guess you could say. And then Nick Cage kills me in this. He is so great as Spider-Man Noir, where the breeze is coming through and Peter B. Parker's like, "Where's there a breeze?" He's like, "Wherever I go."
There's always a breeze where I go.
Sometimes I burn a match just to feel something. Like he is just
Uh,
so good
and
in this role.
it's like picture perfect Nick Cage too. Like
Yes, he didn't phone it in. He did a
he
really
is,
great job.
it is this is probably around the time where he realized just being Nick Cage is a benefit to him, where he can just go full Nick Cage and people are happy with that. Oh man. What is this cube? Is this blue? Is this purple? I can't see. There's no color in my world.
Yes, yeah, he's in a black and white noir thing. So he says he'll find out the answer to the cube because he takes it home with him. And we get Peter Porker, which is the Spider Ham.
Now I see why everybody was going crazy about Peter Porker and John Mulaney.
Again, Mulaney kills it in this. He's great.
I get it now. I 100. Okay, did you watch the short?
I think I did a few years ago. I don't remember it off the top of my head though.
The short, it's even if you're listening to this, the short is even on YouTube. You can watch it. It's literally like a Looney Tunes cartoon. It's like 4 minutes long.
Right.
And it's basically what happened before Peter Porker got pulled into that universe. And
yes.
The only way to describe it is truly an old-fashioned Looney Tunes cartoon, because it is silly and wacky and crazy, and it's something I would have seen when I was a kid. But it is just fantastic.
Yeah, and this is what I think makes the movie work so well too. Is I feel like there's truly is something for everybody. This plays so well for the kids too, Spider-Ham, but also like for people that grew up watching like Looney Tunes and stuff. Like nowadays, I don't even know if you can watch them anywhere other than like Max or something. But growing up, it was like a huge block on Cartoon Network for me. I would see like this, Looney Tunes was from like 12 to like 3 p.m. and then it'd be Tom and Jerry or something. And then, like they just, you would see these all. And this was like classic cartoon like this. And then you have something for your anime fans with Penny Parker. You have, the noir stuff. You have then just your normal Spider-Man, like.
Do animals talk in this universe? Because I really don't want to freak him out.
Yeah, he says while they're hiding from the room.
As he's looking at him. And then even in the end, where they gave the shout out where he's like, "That's all, folks." Is he legally allowed to say that?
Do that? Yes.
Yeah, is he legally allowed to say that? I think at that point they were just like, if they sue, they sue. Whatever. We'll find a way around it.
Right. And he kind of takes a shot at people that say like bad stuff about cartoons too, because like the Scorpion guy, who is Scorpion in this universe, he is like actually part Scorpion. He says like, "Oh, you're like just a cartoon," or he's not really worried about it, and then like he beats him up and he is like. How about that for a cartoon or
is
whatever?
That cartoon enough for you?
Yeah, cartoon enough for
you.
With
his hammer.
Yeah, the mallet that he pulls out of his pockets, like just so cartoon. But when they go visit May, we also get this part where they're all in the living room, and it's right before Prowler and all of them appear. But Miles figures out that Uncle Aaron is the Prowler. And what I like about this too is when Nick Cage kills me in this part too. When he comes in and he is catching everybody up on, him being Miles arrives there and he's like, "Hey, my uncle is like the villain," and he's like, "That's a pretty hardcore origin story."
Before that, where they were in the basement and they finally they're realizing like, I don't know if Miles is ready for this.
Yeah, with the "I can't do it on command," and he's like, he can't do it on command.
So eventually, and that's where he ends up getting sad. He turns invisible and he ends up leaving,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where he goes to his uncle's
Yeah.
apartment. And so when he's up there, I forgot that the Prowler was still looking for whoever it was that was at the scene at the site earlier where they killed Spider-Man, right?
Yes. Yep.
So he's in his uncle's apartment doing whatever, and he's leaving him a note. And obviously, they have the scene where like you see the Prowler kind of like from across the street, like skitter across or whatever. And then when they show him at the window, that's when it hit me like, oh, that's why his uncle is gone for long, weird, random periods of
Yep.
time. Like I was like, this is his uncle. Like I'm sure a lot of other people who watched it were able to figure that one out right there. But I was like, oh, this is not going to be good because this is going to end up horrible somehow. Like now, and that was a good story twist right there. We're not like it's family now, and while trying to do some research, like doing some note stuff on that, I didn't realize that was Donald Glover's character
In Homecoming. Yep.
in Homecoming.
He
Yeah,
mentions how he has a nephew in the area, so he wanted to not let the guns get out or whatever. That's why he tells Spider-Man where to meet at the ferry for Homecoming.
and then he ended up with his ice cream melting.
Yes, because he left him there.
You know
Yeah.
what? I wouldn't mind seeing. I wouldn't mind seeing, like, if they did a Miles Morales live action movie like that.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't mind seeing what's his name
As Prowler, yeah.
as Uncle Aaron.
Yeah.
I can't think of his name.
Donald Glover. You just
Yeah,
said
I wouldn't mind seeing I wouldn't mind seeing Donald Glover as like continuing on as Uncle Aaron or whatever. Like once again, I'm surprised that they haven't, especially now that the character is a lot more popular, a lot more well known. I'm surprised they haven't spun that off and tried to incorporate that into the Spider-Verse.
Well, that's what I always wondered. Like remember when the Marvel news broke that Sony was pulling him from that before No Way Home? They were like,
Yeah.
"Oh, we're gonna do our own thing," and I was like so mad at Sony, and I was like, "Why don't you just, if you want a live action Spider-Man, just do Miles.
Miles Morales, yeah.
You have it, right?" So I don't know. I think eventually they'll, if they keep it with the MCU, I think whenever Tom Holland's done, you introduce Miles and you keep this thing going, right? Like that's something you can do.
I think the time has passed. I think between connected universe fatigue and superhero fatigue, I think the time for something like that has passed. I think you've got to give it. I don't even think it could be Donald Glover anymore. I think it would have to be 5 or 10 years from now, and it would be somebody else completely. But I think if they would have struck while it was hot after Homecoming, and after this, and after the Miles Morales video game, where people were really starting to get into the character and learning more about him, and were down for it, I think it could have been something that could have been a little bit bigger.
I'll say, the only reason I disagree is because I think Spider-Man is fatigue proof. I think he is. He's almost like a Batman. He's the most popular comic book character. And I actually don't know how much of it is comic book fatigue and just franchise fatigue as a whole, or bad movie fatigue. Because for some of these, like, people will always point out the comic book ones, but when I look at stuff like Transformers didn't do well, which is not comic book, Indiana Jones didn't do well. Like, it's like all these big budget movies. It's not even just superheroes. So I think it's almost like the only movies that I think it's movies as a whole really that are struggling. And then you have Oppenheimer and Barbie that really just kicked butt this year, and Across the Spider-Verse and Guardians. Those are like the big movies of the year, and everything else really struggled.
Do you think Madam Web will be any good?
No. It's gonna be awful. It's gonna be so bad. It's not even close to what Madam Web is in the comics or anything. It's gonna be really bad. But I'm probably not going to go see it, but I think we'll have coverage of it on the Marvel Pod through Ron and Chris. I believe they're going to go see it. So we'll have them do the podcast if that's the case. But yeah, so then he figures out his uncle is the Prowler. He goes back. He's still kind of sidelined a bit. They're going to...
Well, remember, his uncle...
Uncle's going to die, yeah.
Yeah, his uncle gets killed because he pulls off the mask and
He
shows him,
pleads for him, and
yeah.
the
Well,
Kingpin
and not
kills him.
only that, Aunt May's a boss here because she's like, hey, like I guess maybe she's just used to it by now. Like, okay, you
Yeah,
guys are
yeah,
gonna fight. That's cool. Just take it outside. Like, do
right.
what you got to
Don't
do.
wreck my house, please.
Just take it outside. And then they start wrecking the house, and she's having none of that. She hits whoever with the baseball bat. Like I said, take it outside. Like at some point, just humor the lady. Take the fight outside.
Right, right. Yeah. So then they go out. Uh, they start fighting. Prowler is gonna almost kill Miles until he takes off the mask, and then he pleads, and that's when Kingpin is going to finish the job, kill him for betraying him, and then as he's trying to run away with Uncle Aaron and save him is when
That's where
his
his dad
dad is
shows up.
going to
So now
show
his
up
dad
here.
sees Spider-Man taking his brother, or he
Yeah,
he just sees Spider-Man with a body, and then he catches him, and when he walks up to the body, realizes,
it's his brother. Yeah.
or he believes that Spider-Man has killed his brother.
Right.
Which, once again, another great twist there.
Mm-hmm. And he, he tries to go to Miles, who's now tied up in his room because do not, they do not
He's
think
not.
he can do it. They don't want him to
He's
get
not
hurt.
ready.
He's not ready. And they tell him he says like it's a leap of faith. You'll know, whenever you take that leap. And that's when his dad shows up, and he has this great conversation, one-sided conversation. He thinks Miles is ignoring him, but I think if Miles was able to, he would have maybe
I think he
had
would
this
have talked to him.
conversation. Yeah, and that's when he tells him about his uncle. I think he was telling him his uncle something was happening, but he didn't actually say it, because then at the end of the call, he's going to try to tell him about Uncle Aaron passing away, and that's when he says he knows.
Yeah, and
But he's pretty much
at
saying
the
like,
door.
I'm
Yeah,
here to talk to you, like because in their cases they keep trying to call him anytime any of this stuff is going on, and he's not answering because he's really busy doing Spider-Man stuff and trying to save the world here, and they think he's kind of a bit ignoring them.
that, and he realizes he never had a chance to reconcile with his brother
Yes.
before he died. You know, we don't get the full story, but his brother, he went into the police force. His brother, I guess, stayed with a life of crime. Wasn't, he took a different turn in his life, I guess is the best way to say, because we don't really have a ton of info on it.
And that's why
Um,
he's always so hard on Miles too, I think, because he's like, he sees how much he talks to.
how much he admires his brother,
Yes.
his uncle. So he doesn't want him. He's afraid. He's afraid Miles is gonna turn that way with his life.
Mm-hmm. And he has
But
all this promise. That's why he puts him in the good school and all that. Like he
but
wants him to be a better person.
and then he realizes he never had a chance to reconcile with his brother before his brother was killed. So he's afraid that, as Miles, especially Miles is what? Is he in middle school in this? Or is it high school?
No, I think he's 14 or 14 because I think Gwen is 15.
But I
She's
think
15 months older than him.
But didn't they say it was I wasn't sure if they said it was middle school or high school. Was that
I think
academy?
it's a combined. I think it's a combined school.
But so I mean, especially those mid teenage years is a very pivotal time in a young person's life, right? And you can make some decisions that can lead you one way or the other. So he's afraid his son might make a couple of bad decisions, and next thing you know, he's kind of off the straight and narrow, and he's not going to be able to get him back down the right path. But he also realizes if he pushes him away, the more he pushes him away, the more he's going to take that path that doesn't lead him down the straight and narrow.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that was an emotional scene as well. Not only because Miles couldn't talk to him, but because his dad doesn't know that he can't talk to him. He just thinks he won't talk to him,
Right.
and he's just getting this one part off his chest, and it's a very emotional scene. Very well done. Very well done.
Yeah, and he is going to be able to get himself out of this after his dad leaves, and he goes back to Aunt May's, right? And they kind of cut this where you see him
Great
post
montage. Great
this,
montage.
yeah, post that, and also during this, where he is going back to Aunt May's. She's like, "Hey, I made these for you. Like, I knew you about time you showed up," type of thing, right? And
Yeah, he gets
then
his
he
web
kind of,
slingers. He does some stuff with the suit.
yeah, he spray paints it, right? Like he makes it his own. And then we get the great, yeah, this scene gives me goosebumps all the time though. This "What's Up Danger" scene where he's, web slinging and just going through the city. He's got like his
He
Spider-Man
takes that
suit
leap
on.
of faith. He takes
Yeah,
the
he
leap of
takes the
faith with the web
literal leap
swingers.
of faith here.
And I like the scene. I think it was during this montage where it was a cut of and a reflection of him looking up into a Spider-Man suit,
Yes.
and it's kind of him realizing, like, I don't know how to explain it, but like he's looking up at the suit, and the mask is kind of fitting on him, and it is really fitting his face, and that's where it leads into, like I said, he's making the suit his own. He's spray painting it, turning it black, doing some other things to it. Yeah, and then
Because
he jumps up.
I think the first time he's in that basement, he looks at it and you see him
It's
come up to
off.
like the chest,
Yeah,
right?
he can't,
Yeah.
or the whole face thing is off. It's not
Yes.
fitting. Like the face is, or it's like the face is this big and his face
Right.
is this big, so it's just it looks like a kid, putting on a
Mm-hmm.
Halloween costume or something. But now he's looking up at it, and he's more confident, more full of himself, and he's fitting into, like Stan Lee said, the suit will fit, and it does.
Yep. Yeah, this scene's really great. This is I have a playlist of just Miles songs, which is from the Miles game and from this movie. And this always gets me hyped. This is not usually my type of music. This "What's Up Danger" song, I'm not really big into. What would you call it? Hip hop or
Yeah,
yeah. But this song's great, and this whole soundtrack is great, really, and it fits this character, and this scene is just huge payoff for a whole bunch of stuff throughout this movie. And I think one reason why I really like this movie too is there's so many payoffs we're going to get in this. The leap of faith thing that you mentioned, you get, like I said before, with Octavius, right? You get that nice callback reveal. You get a great scene later on when, watch the hands, not the mouth, right?
yeah,
It happened when Peter originally got captured, and he pulls it here to make sure he's the one that has the goober instead of Peter.
yeah,
Great callback there. And then the move he does to Miles before he locks him up in that room, where he takes out his legs and grips him by the chest and leaves him there,
yeah. And he's like, do
is what he
something. Yeah,
does, which is what he does to Peter to make him drop in to go home. It was like just so many callbacks that pay off in this final fight that they're about to approach. But the rest of them get there first, right? And like you said, they take the bus, they get there, they're watching, and they're wondering how they're going to be able to sneak into this thing. They're all the waiters. Insensitivity, by the way, here. Dressed as Spider-Man for the Spider-Man morning thing
okay.
at Fisk
So
Tower.
I don't think it's that insensitive. Now, I will say, I admit, I believe Mr. Fisk, Kingpin here, is doing it just to be a dick,
That's
right?
why, right? I think if it was anybody else, you'd maybe give him a little more leeway.
But I think okay, so Mary Jane is there. I think if
Yeah,
if it was really that insensitive, if she had had an issue with it, she
right.
might have been able to put a stop to it. I don't know much. Does everybody know that Fisk is Kingpin?
In some universes, yes. I don't know if it's really clear in this movie.
Because I don't know. Well, obviously they don't know that he's the one who killed Spider, right?
Right.
In this universe. Otherwise, like, I don't think that benefit or whatever is happening, right?
Right.
I don't think Mary Jane is showing up to the benefit, knowing that the dude who killed her husband is the one putting it on. But like I said, I just don't know much about the character, so I wasn't sure if they knew, like, he's actually the kingpin running the crime scene in New York City or whatever. But yeah, where they're like, it can't be that easy. Yeah, it's that easy. Like I said, I don't think it's that insensitive. I think yeah, Kingpin's being a dick, but just from the front of like, hey, a way to honor Spider-Man for whatever they're doing. Like, yeah, have the waiters wear the little Spider-Man mask. I don't.
I love how they say there's no way it's going to be that easy, and then they walk in and they're like, it's that easy. But you also get the what when they call him when they call Kingpin a pig, and then Spider Ham is like, I'm
I'm
right
right
here.
here.
Mulaney's delivery on that is great.
This is where we also get Peter B. Parker meeting up with Mary Jane for the
Yes.
first time.
Yes, and how he will definitely bring her the bread, and that how she should have all the bread she ever wants, and all this stuff. And there's a lot of good stuff in this conversation, actually, too, about how he mentions, like, I didn't think you wanted the bread, but now I guess, and it's all about kind of referencing the issue of
His issue with Mary Jane, yeah.
with children. Yeah, exactly. And he getting to have this moment, I think, helps us connect with him, but also it's going to help him put together stuff that he needs to put together when he goes back. He's starting to realize maybe I do want kids, and he's going to actually say that when he's helping out Miles in this fight. He's like, "Holy crap, do I want kids?" Like, because he mentions about like how proud he is of Miles, and he's had this nice bond with a kid. I think he thought he wasn't going to be able to do that in his role of Spider-Man, but now he can kind of see how he can do that and still shape somebody that way. So really great for this scene with the bread, which can be played off as a silly scene, but it really is great character work here. Yeah, so then they sneak in. They're gonna get their way to the elevator where they're gonna take out. Apparently, it's all the way at the bottom floor, right in the basement, is where this machine is built. And they go there, and Peter's going to get ready to put the goober in when his spidey sense goes off. And this is where we get the return of Olivia Octavius.
And this is where they realize it was just a setup. Like they were
Yes.
waiting for him the entire time.
And I love this reveal of Miles because it shows that he can control all this stuff now. He's got the electric zap he can do. He's got the invisibility. But just when you see her own arm hit her in the face, at first you're kind of taken aback, I think.
I thought her arms were malfunctioning.
Right. And then it keeps doing it, and then he just pops out of nowhere and does the punch like that. Like, the animation of that's really cool too. It does that background change thing that they sometimes do, which makes it look real comic book like. And then we get this great battle between them. But just a great reveal of having him pop in. I don't think we have to go through too much of the fight here, but we've talked about a little bit before here of Scorpion, getting defeated by Spider-Ham. We get Olivia Octavius gets hit by the train or the bus or something. And it pretty much is they start sending everybody back, but it's going to be Keaton is going to approach, but he's going to only do that when it's just Miles and Peter at that point, and then he tells Peter he's got this, and he does the move I talked about to make sure to send him home. So once we get great closure with all of these characters, with like Gwen saying, "Okay, you can like my haircut," and how she says, "I'm like 15 months older than you, right?" And all this great stuff.
It did in any version of any universe or whatever. Do like Miles and Gwen get together? Because I saw that there was some sort of connection there, and I don't know if that was meant to be on purpose or if that happens in any of the comics or.
I believe it's original to this. Gwen is usually a Peter love interest, so I believe that Miles usually has his own love interest.
But if Peter has Mary Jane, then
right. Well, usually Gwen is his love interest before Mary Jane. Usually Gwen dies, actually, just like in Amazing Spider-Man 2, how she dies. That's pretty accurate. But yeah, so in this case, it's pretty new, I would say. I think now there are people out there that ship this, and I wouldn't be surprised if this becomes a thing in the comics going forward, but I'm pretty sure this is original to this.
I'm all for it.
Yeah, they have great chemistry. They really do. And yeah, so then he's going to defeat Kingpin with the shoulder touch after he gets his butt beat. And we get the call back again about how Spider-Man always gets up, right? Which is something that Spider-Man, the first one, said before he died.
And he couldn't do earlier in the basement. Yeah. He couldn't do it. He couldn't get up in the basement after they just kept pounding on him.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why they start talking about he's not ready. He can't go on the mission.
Yep. Yeah, so then he actually gets up here. He does the and the way he does this too, where he's like, "I'll always have my family with me," and then does the shoulder touch because it's something Uncle Aaron taught him, you know. And then it's kind of like Kingpin's own henchman is kind of his downfall here with the shoulder touch. Is going to get Kingpin all throughout this too. One thing that we didn't really get a chance to talk about is what happened to Kingpin's family, right? We see that he blames Spider-Man for their death because he was beating the crap out of Peter Parker. And they walked in, the son and the wife walked in on him, beating the crap out of this guy, being like, "What are you doing?" And they got so frightened from this and needed to get away. They get in their car, speeding, go through a red light, I guess, and then get hit by T-boned.
So, two things. One, I could kind of equate this maybe to The Sopranos of like, you didn't know who your dad was? You didn't know who your husband was? Maybe. I don't know. It's possible. He could have hid that portion of his life as Kingpin from his family, but like, I think they probably, maybe. Even in The Sopranos, like eventually they were able to be like, okay, whatever. Two, is that also another thing that kind of happens in the comics, or was that just for this movie?
Vanessa is usually his person that is his wife that usually gives him some sort of ultimatums at times, right? Like at one time, after he had a near-death experience, Vanessa gives him an ultimatum saying he had 24 hours to get out of crime or she will leave him. There's been times where she has died, I believe, but I don't think not
like because of
died in the past. It's not usually due to, I think, seeing like Spider-Man get beat, but yeah, she does. Like, look, there are some dark things in here. At one point, I'm just looking through the Wikipedia here because I don't know all of Vanessa's history here, but at one point it says she murdered her son. I don't know if she was like being controlled or if something happened, but she then lost the will to live, and then she died, and then she's gotten reanimated before. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Next question. I know they're all connected, but is Kingpin more of a Spider-Man villain or like a villain? Because I remember him from Daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
Like the original Ben Affleck movie Daredevil. Like,
yeah.
And I know I think that was either early in the first Spider-Man trilogy days or like before it. Because Michael Clark Duncan played Kingpin. But has he always been... Because I know it's all in New York and held like... But is he more of one...
And that's what's funny too, is because he's in Daredevil, the TV show, right?
Yeah.
And
Vincent
D'Onofrio. Yeah. And he's going to be in the new Daredevil show. And he's going to be in Echo that drops this month on Disney+. So he, like you said, it's pretty intertwined because...
They're all in New York City. And
his first appearance was 1967 in Amazing Spider-Man number 50.
Oh, wow.
He definitely started as a Spider-Man villain. In the 80s is kind of when he started becoming more of a like Daredevil nemesis. because they just kind of, I think it was Frank Miller that kind of brought him in as like, okay, I need a villain for Daredevil right now that would go up well against him, and it was like, oh, let's grab, Kingpin. Um, and then that dynamic worked so well for them that he's kind of seen as just like both. And there's rumors out there, I don't know how true they are, that like Spider-Man 4, the next Tom Holland movie, is going to focus on Kingpin and have Daredevil in it and all this kind of stuff. We don't know if that's true, but they are kind of really connected. There is a comic event called Devil's Reign that kind of focused on Fisk becoming mayor, and
Oh wow.
then like them having to take him down a bit. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff there, but I would say now I think he's almost seen as more of a Daredevil villain, but definitely originally a Spider-Man villain, and is shared pretty frequently between the two of them.
Like I said, I know like all those, especially in New York City, all those Marvel comics are connected between Daredevil and Spider-Man and Luke
I mean,
Cage and
almost all of those characters in Marvel are New York heroes. Yeah, so they're all pretty
yeah.
intertwined. Yeah, but street level heroes like Daredevil and Spider-Man definitely share um, some of those same things.
Okay.
But yeah, so then he's going to deliver Kingpin in webbing to his dad after he has his phone conversation. He kind of cuts it off, goes down, hugs his dad, puts on this like fake adult voice.
Do you think his dad knows?
No, I don't think he does. Do you think he does?
I think he might have an idea, but I think it might be one of those between the hug and usually parents can sense their children.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
I think it's one of those things that,
He's like, this can't be Miles.
right.
Like, there's no way this is my like. It might the idea might have went in his head, but he's like, no, this can't be Miles.
And then I think when if he will find out, it will be one of those things that he looks back on and be like, the signs were there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we get the nice ending scene of the, like we said before, anybody can wear the mask, and
For
then
the
a little,
last 2 weeks, I've been Spider
yeah.
Man.
And actually, that's the clip I'm playing at the beginning of this episode. So if people would have already heard some of that opening there, and then we kind of get a little tease here as something happens above his bed, and we hear Gwen uh, say like, "Hey, Miles," Um, yeah, and then the credits. Did you watch the end credit scene?
I no, because when I looked online, it said there was no end credit scene.
Really? Did it say that? Let me see
Yeah,
if I can find it on YouTube real quick for me to share it.
I looked up online and it said there was no end credit scene.
I meant to tell you too. I totally forgot to tell you. It's short. It's not like super long. Here it is.
Okay, yeah, I see. There's one.
Yeah. It's like a minute 30 seconds.
I'm
Do you need me to
gonna
send it or you got it?
I'm gonna watch this right now. The pointing scene.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I want to make sure I want to make sure I was watching something that was legit. Yeah, that was great. I wish I would have watched it yesterday because, like I said, when I looked it up, something said there was no end credit scene. So I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah, man. I should have. I was gonna text you and then I totally forgot.
And then
But
after that, I turned off and watched the Peter Porker short.
oh yeah, this was it may seem like it's a funny, nice little joke, but it's actually a setup for the sequel without really spoiling much. Um, so here you go, and then that's a wrap on Into the Spider-Verse. I don't think we really have any memes from it too much here. Nothing that really sticks out to me of something that people share a lot of like gifs or anything of. So I guess I'll go ahead and should we do rate the film first or the $5 bin question first?
Okay, so well, I've already purchased this the
Right,
full
but if
price,
you
but
hadn't purchased it,
oh yeah, I would definitely buy this out of a bin. Not gonna, I would buy this out of a bin. Um, after having seen it, yeah, if I saw this in a value bin, it's coming home.
all right. So let me read these reviews here. Rotten Tomatoes, 97% critic score, 94% audience verified score. Oh, this is before verification, but still 94%. Metacritic, the Metascore is 87 out of 100. It's pretty
Really?
good. Yeah. IMDb is at 8.4, and the Cinema Score was at A plus. So I'll give my rating, mine, if people couldn't tell, is a 5 out of 5 stars. And last time I watched this was in June, preparing for the sequel. And so I watched it again Friday night, and it was a good time. And now I really can't wait to revisit Across the Spider Verse. But Casey, I ask you, what would you rate this out of 5 stars?
Okay, so as I said, the only interactions I've had with Spider-Man really were the the Sam Raimi trilogy, and then the Amazing Spider-Man. Well, it was supposed to be a trilogy, but it only ended up in 2 parts. Right? I knew of the character before, but as I've said many times, I never read comics, but I knew who Spider-Man was. Might have caught a quick glimpse of like the animated series back in the day, but just never got into it. I should watch this in the movie theater. I'm really disappointed that I did not, because this was a 5-star movie for me. As I said, the animation itself was amazing. It may have been one of the best animated things I've ever seen. Now, granted, I don't watch a ton,
Mm-hmm.
so I can't act like I'm an expert in any way, shape, or form
But you've
with
seen
animation.
Hoodwinked, right? So that's a good one.
Hoodwinked is fantastic, man. Like I will not tolerate any bad mouthing of the Hoodwinked movie.
I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to slander it. I like Hoodwinked a lot, actually.
Hoodwinked was great. I wish you hadn't seen it so we could watch it again and discuss it for this podcast.
True, true.
But no, like especially like we said, with the different animation styles and the different things they did, and the way they incorporated comic panels and paneling and the different comic things into this movie, was something that really was amazing. Visually, it looked amazing, HDR wise, with on a 4K TV and everything, and on my Series X, because that's what I use for my DVD player, for 4K Blu-rays and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't play there, then I have a couple discs that for whatever reason won't play on
Really?
my Series X, so I have to use my PlayStation 5.
Mm.
So when I did my Marvel-a-thon, the Infinity Thon,
Mm-hmm.
a couple years ago, there was like 2 or 3 in the middle that wouldn't watch, that I couldn't watch on there, that just wouldn't work. So I had to put in the PS5, which meant I had to go buy the remote for the PS5.
I just got that for Christmas, the remote.
Because trying to use the controller is so awkward.
Yeah. Especially if you're like sitting on the couch and you're like, I just want to sit the remote next to me. You're like, I got to sit this bulky controller next to me.
Yeah. And then you're trying to like, okay, I need to pause it or I need to fast forward it. Next thing you know, you're at the top menu again. You're like, God damn it. So yeah, I had to like order it from like Best Buy or something and go. I took a break because it didn't work. It only worked in the PS5, and I'm like, I don't have the remote, so I had to go order it online from Best Buy
to pick it up.
Took like an hour and a half break so I could get the whatchamacallit in, so I could go pick it up and come back and then watch, which was good because I needed a break anyway.
Yeah,
but yeah. So I watched it on those. It visually looks amazing. The story was great. I think it's a great introduction to the character of Miles Morales and to these other characters, like I said, of Gwen Stacy. Like I thought I thought the name sounded familiar of Gwen Stacy. and yeah, she was in the Amazing Spider-Man. What was it
Emma Stone.
Emma Stone's
And
character?
she was also in Spider-Man 3. Bryce Dallas Howard
Yeah,
played Gwen Stacy. Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, I distinctly remember of Emma Stone's character. Who,
Yeah.
you know, where they had the callback in the last Spider-Man of him saving
Yeah.
Mary Jane the same way because he couldn't save Gwen Stacy. So I thought the name sounded familiar. But I like I said, I'd like to know more about some of these other characters if they would have done some spin-off cartoons or movies of Spider Noir, you know, Gwen Stacy's character, Spider Ham, some of these other ones. You know, even Penny Parker or other ones. Whatever one I just saw in that end credit scene, I think would be a great another one to
Yes.
see. So I will definitely at some point be getting and watching the sequel.
All right. Yeah, we
And
should do it for this. We should do it for
I will
this in the
I
future.
will probably go see the third one when it comes out, whenever that is.
Yeah, it was originally supposed to be this year, but I
Obviously,
don't think it's going to happen. um, yes, this is one that you don't care if people are watching you because you're an adult. And actually, when I went, by the way, to see Across the Spider-Verse, because this is what I wanted to
probably
talk
more
about
adults
too.
in there.
There
Probably more
was
adults in there.
a huge amount of adults. We took my grandparents to go see it. Like we all went to see this movie. But okay, so the first one had a budget of 90 million and made 384.3. A modest hit because you're thinking, okay, if you double the budget usually for the marketing, and you're looking at
Maybe,
180. It made
yeah, I was gonna say
384. All right, it made some money. The second one had a budget of 100 to 150 million and made $690.5 million. So a bigger hit. It was number one in the box office. It was huge. This third one is probably going to make a billion or close to it. It's going to be really close. 800,
I would hope so. I would
800
hope
to
so.
$1 billion. So I like the first one the most. I know a lot of people around the time that the second one came out said that was better. I think the animation might actually be better, if you could believe it or not, in the second one. But the it does not no spoiler. It does end on a pretty big cliffhanger, and that for me is like this one feels like when we're talking about the callbacks that just happen in this one so well. It pays off this stuff so well in this story that like Across the Spider-Verse I have as a 4.5. This one is a 5 out of 5. So it's still very good. I don't want people to think I was hating on it. I had to make sure I stressed that on my review that I did too. But it was like I felt like I need to see that third one to like really get what some of those, some of those story callbacks that are going to make this thing full circle. But man, the animation and stuff is really great in the second one. So, really excited for you to watch that whenever you get around to it. And yeah, I'm hoping we don't have a huge wait for the third one, but we'll see, I guess.
Maybe next year, maybe 2026.
Yeah, probably 2025 or early 2026.
I'd say maybe holiday 2025, if not.
Yeah, I think originally it was supposed to be March of this year, May of this year, something like that, but it's not happening. It is not happening. I think they took it off the schedule already. They said that they weren't even like done the voice acting of it yet. There's no way it's ready at all. That's why I'm like, it's going to be late 2025, early 2026 till we see that.
It might be a good holiday movie.
Yeah, I mean, that's what this one was, December. So put it there. December movies make tons of money because if you put it around Christmas,
Families go see it.
Movies.
Tons of people go see
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So that wraps up this one. All right, Casey, I'm going to ask you now. What are we watching next week? I actually don't know. This is one of the first times in a while I do not know.
All right, so I went through our list, right? And I had a movie that I thought you hadn't seen, and I had to double check. And that was going to be Glory.
Okay.
But I saw that you said that you did see it. And it was mainly because we had just
watched
lost.
it in class.
I watched it in my social studies class in 7th grade.
Yeah.
And it was mainly because I just saw that it was Andre Brower's first movie role.
Yes, because we just
He
lost him.
was the director was on Twitter a while back, and he talked about some stuff from the movie. They said he was like 3 weeks out of Juilliard
Wow.
when he did this. He was so new that the first couple of days, the crew kept telling him, "You need to hit your mark," and he didn't know what his mark. He didn't know what that meant.
Right.
And that was because I guess it's different between he'd done a lot more stage stuff at Juilliard as compared to film. And the director said within his first couple of days were rough, but after about the third day, he was hanging. He was handling his own with Morgan Freeman and Denzel Washington. And it's been said that he made a great career going into television, but a lot of people would love to have seen what he could have done with some other movies. And I know he's done some other movies, but nothing is big.
Right.
And then I saw you had saw that, and I was like, man. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, I'm gonna end up crying at that movie. I really don't want to cry. But so instead, I scrolled through. We're gonna go to the year 2000. We're gonna catch up with Ridley Scott and watch Gladiator.
Oh, okay. Now, I will just preface, I've seen bits of it. My friend brought it over when I was in, like, I don't know, 7th or 8th grade. It did not catch me back then. And I am a history major. I will say so. I'm a history major. I love ancient Rome, ancient Greece, all that kind of stuff.
I was going to say this was a fantastic movie, but some people had issues with historical inaccuracies of it. Which two things? I get. I do that with some movies and stuff sometimes myself. One, it's a movie. Let's just calm down. Take a step back. Two, how do we know what didn't happen? This was ancient Rome. I know a lot of stuff was cataloged and told, but just go with it. Stars Russell Crowe, Connie Nielsen, Joaquin Phoenix. Tells the story of a once general who was forced to become a gladiator, and goes from there. Entertains
on
the
Paramount
masses.
Plus.
I think it might be on Max too. Yeah, but I own
I'm seeing Paramount Plus, AMC Plus, BBC America. So I'll probably be watching it on Paramount Plus. It's also on sale on Amazon for like $12.09 instead of $17.
I own like 3 versions of the movie, so.
Oh, you own 3 versions, you said?
Yeah, I think I own the disc, I own the DVD, the Blu-ray, and then
do you have the VHS?
The HD Blu-ray. And I should have traded in the Blu-ray a while back because for a while there was some issues, I think, with the transfer. Because that was at the time where there was HD DVD and then Blu-ray, and then Blu-ray went out. But there was some issues with the transfer where it wasn't transferred properly. So they had an issue. They had a thing a while back where you could have sent it in and they would have sent you an updated copy. And I just never got around to it. But I think I have the HD Blu-ray now. So.
Well, I feel like this was a win this week. We've had a few weeks where we were kind of each other not really digging the thing. So good win here. Next week we'll talk Gladiator, Paramount Plus. And yeah, I mean, I've always heard good things about it. So we'll dive into that, and we'll catch you all next week.